thumbs up?
You got
Okay.
the thumbs up.
Good morning, everyone. Regularly scheduled meeting of the Fort Myers Beach Local Planning Agency. It is June 10th at 9 a.m. All members are present, as well as our town attorney, town clerk, and our community development staff. If you would, please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, let's have a lively and interesting meeting today, and I hope everyone has a wonderful summer vacation. Amen.
Amen.
I know. All right, the first thing is an approval of the final agenda, and I'd like the LPA, is there a problem? Okay. I'd like to ask the LPA if we could move Fishtail up to the first space, so if any of you hadn't had time to review the information that we got last night, as soon as we finish Fishtail, we could take a 5-minute, 10-minute break, make sure everybody's on the same page, and then start the theater. I did speak with Mr. Van Ness this morning and asked him what he thought about that. He said he had the same idea, so without any objection, thank you, thank you, and thank you all, and is there, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. The next item is an approval of the minutes for the local planning agency of May 13th, 2025.
I have one update on page 7. It says LPA member talked about the bench. That LPA member was me, so include McLean in that, and with that change I would approve the minutes.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Thank you, Jane. Any objection to that motion with change? Motion carries unanimously without objection. The next item is public comment. Justin, I know you want to speak, and since we're moving Fishtail up, because I know you can't stay, since we're moving Fishtail up, I suggest you speak during the public hearing, okay? Is anybody else here to speak about anything other than the cases that are on the agenda? No? Okay. We'll close the public comment and move on to our first public hearing, which is CPD 202. You're anxious, aren't you, Nancy? 202-50008. This is 7225 Estero Boulevard or Fishtail Marina. This is an ordinance of the Town Council of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, approving with conditions or denying an amendment and reinstatement of Lee County Resolution Z94-013 that rezoned property to commercial plan development to allow for a revision to the master concept plan, and 1 additional deviation for setbacks for the redevelopment of a commercial marina for property located at 7225, 7291, and 7295 Estero Boulevard, generally identified as strap numbers 034724W1 00011.0010, 034724W1 and 034724W1 00011.003B in Fort Myers Beach, restating previously approved conditions and deviations, providing for other clarifications as necessary, providing for conflicts of law, Scribner's errors, severability, and providing for an effective date. Nancy.
So everybody cover their ears because I have to move the microphone down. Okay.
Look at that. Nothing is
That was Josh. A whole lot of lead-in.
He knew it was coming. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the 3 items that you have on your agenda today, including your first item, the Fishtail Marina rezoning, these are all quasi-judicial in nature, and this requires that your public hearings today comply with some procedural requirements that have been established in Florida law and in our land development code. Your quasi-judicial proceedings are less formal than proceedings before a circuit court, but they will be more formal than the remainder of your meeting, and will also follow basic standards of due process that require certain notices, the application of the correct standards, and decisions made based on competent and substantial evidence that is presented to you in written documents or through oral testimony. Your job today is to evaluate the testimony and the information for each item, and then draw a conclusion regarding whether the criteria in the Land Development Code or in state laws may be applicable has been satisfied. So pure speculation or opinion that is not based on competent facts cannot be legally considered by you in evaluating an agenda item. Testimony by professionals who are qualified as experts in a particular area has been considered competent evidence by Florida courts, as well as testimony by neighbors and residents who have fact-based information, such as minutes, surveys, engineering reports, etc., or if it is testimony based on their personal knowledge and information. So members of the public, if you intend to speak, please keep this in mind. When you come forward, please state your name clearly for the record, whether or not you have been sworn in. On your agenda today, you have the three quasi-judicial items. One is a special exception, one is a rezoning, and there's also a variance. I wanted just to remind you that a unanimous decision by eligible voting members of the LPA to approve a variance shall constitute final agency action that is subject to a request by anyone for an additional hearing or review of the matter by the town council if that request for the additional hearing is received by the town clerk within 10 days. So for purposes of efficiency, I want to go ahead and dispose of a few housekeeping matters. First, I need to ask the town clerk, who is Jason Freeman today, substituting for Amy, have all agenda items been properly noticed pursuant to our Land Development Code?
Yes.
And also, is there any LPA member that has a conflict of interest on any of the three items?
No conflict.
Joan? Jane? None. Doug?
No, ma'am.
No conflict.
Jim?
I don't think it's conflict, but a disclosure. I'm having some work done, my boat, and I live on Egret Street, so it's going to be stored over at the Fishtail Marina folks they've agreed to do that for 2 or 3 months. They may not even know that yet, but they agreed to that yesterday. So I just want to make sure that's out there, that I'm doing business with them in that regard for a short period of time.
Okay, I'll look into that one. We are doing Fishtail first, correct?
Right,
Okay,
right.
so before you get to the vote, I'll have a decision for you
Thank you.
on that. Regardless, if you were to have a conflict which would prohibit you from voting, we do have a quorum present for that particular item, and the LPA could proceed forward.
Okay.
Next is the swearing in of witnesses. If there's anyone in the audience at this time who intends to provide testimony or comment to the local planning agency on any of the three items, if you could please stand.
So if you're here to speak about anything today, stand up and be sworn in, please.
And I
Thank
can
you
ask
all.
the clerk if he would swear in those that are standing.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you all. Thank you, Nancy. Ex parte, Jim, anything else other than your disclosure of doing business?
Nope.
How about you, Don?
Ex parte, other than meeting with the neighborhood company on the beach theater.
Oh, let's just do
Oh,
fishtail.
just Fishtail, no.
Okay. How about you, Doug?
No, ma'am.
Jane? Nothing. Jim?
None.
Not for me either.
I'll just disclose, I have a business down at Santini Marina Plaza. I'm intimately familiar with the whole fishtail property, but I have not spoken to anybody about this change, so. Thank you. Jason?
Good morning. My name is Jason Smalley. I'm a senior planner with your Planning and Zoning Department. Today before you is an amendment of an already existing CPD known by its general name as the Fishtail Marina. The request today is I would characterize it as a housekeeping issue largely. This site has an existing CPD master concept plan from 1994. It was initially approved in 1988, all by the county. So what they're coming forward today is a bucket of things that would have triggered having to update the master concept plan. So largely what you're seeing before you today is a requirement by the ordinances of the town that when building footprints are expanded or intensity is increased on a site, that the master concept plan should be brought back in for amendments, just so everybody's on the same page going forward about the building locations and any amenities or utilities on the site. Before you today is also a request to include one additional deviation. If you looked at your packet, you'll notice that there's an extensive list of deviations, conditions of approval that were collected between 1988 and 1994. There has not been any changes to the CPD since 1994. So you will see some references in there, for instance, to miniature golf and things that were obviously important to the folks that were writing the ordinance between 88 and 94. The applicants do not want to get into stripping out individual language in there. What they've expressed to staff is that their intent is really to continue business as usual, make some changes to the site that are necessary for the continuing change in their marina business, and also make the site more functional. So some of the things before you today that are changing on the master concept plan include the change of, let me go to the master concept plan so I get the building numbers correct here. Some of the buildings are being their orientation are being changed. If you look at building 7 on the provided master concept plan, you'll notice that it has gone from roughly parallel with the shoreline to something less parallel with it, but what that does is it opens up some of the drive aisles between their dry storage and their boat basin. So in the staff report, we did mention that the intent here is largely to facilitate the reality of marina business as has been described to staff, in that there are not necessarily more boaters, but the boaters that are there are choosing to get larger vessels, and so they need to be able to orient themselves on site, forklift out of dry storage, and be able to get to their boat basins. So change of building 7 on there. They've included the addition of things such as a boat club house, ADA restrooms, so they're bringing the site up to ADA compliance with their new building. That's proposed building 9 on the master concept plan. The existing restaurant they intend to bring back into viability, so there will be need to be some repairs done to that. But the restaurant itself is the building itself is going to stay in the footprint that currently exists, and that's what implicates the additional deviation that they've asked for today. Staff was unable to determine how the enclosed deck area was permitted where it's at, but it's functionally at a 0 lot line. I think we're talking about 6 to 8 inches off of the edge of water. So their deviation is to really recognize the reality of where the building exists today, particularly the restaurant, and allow it to continue use as it had been prior to the storm. Staff can confirm that the deck and enclosed area on the restaurant did exist prior to the storm. The other seemingly larger part of here is going to be a sort of a more granular understanding of what's happening in the out parcel, the parcel that is directly adjacent to Estero. On the previous 1994 master concept plan, as you can see, they showed just a block of, I believe, 20,000 square feet. So what the applicant has chosen to do today is to show exactly where those buildings are, the exact square footage of where those buildings are, and then obviously as part of that, the buildings will be brought into current flood code. So everything you'll be getting today will be, everything going forward would be under current code, and they will be utilizing that out parcel for Walker's Marina and their service use. Now, with that said, there are seemingly a lot of moving parts here. Most of it, if you take a look at the application, is that the applicant has agreed to really just put back what was already there. Staff has agreed that we should strip out some of the discussion about phase 2. The phases have already been completed, or at least the allowances and structures in each of those phases. So it's really a moot point just to keep talking about it. So that's one of the language changes that we wanted to get into the revised ordinance, just so for future planners don't have any questions about what has been accomplished and under what time frame it was supposed to be accomplished. We will consider everything in phase 2 to have been completed, and they will continue with its general use as it existed pre-storm. With that said, are there any questions or concerns? The applicant is here and their representatives are here for questions as well.
Thank you, Jason. Does anybody have a question for Jason?
Yeah, I do. I think you touched on it. Phase 2, it talks about residential, retail, possible future. Where would that be if the land were redeveloped? It wasn't clear to me.
So ostensibly, that would be a redevelopment of the site into more of a neighborhood hub, is how I read the sort of transition language.
Yeah.
The applicant is not intending to build any of those things at this time, and there are some caveats that require them to develop a specific amount of retail before they could even contend with that. Obviously, if they wanted to make that change and then redevelop into the hub and do residential, they would need to come in and at the very least amend the master concept plan and the CPD, much as they are doing today.
So they wouldn't be able to do it by right just because it happens to be, there's language in there.
Right, there would need to be, in my opinion, multiple different changes to the master concept plan to facilitate a residential use as opposed to the marina and retail use that exists today. But either way, it would require them to come ask for either deviations or at the very least to change their master concept plan, which puts it right back into the realm of public hearings.
The only other question I had was around storm water retention. It looks like there's 83% of it's impervious right now. Would there be a requirement to ensure that stormwater is retained, or is there any plan for that?
So at the DO phase, we would get into the actual engineering of what their storage minimums would be. Offhand, it would be the minimum water management district standard of 1.6 inch across the property. I would point out that already developed under the 94 plan were 2 storage systems, I believe under buildings 5 and 6. So they would be telling us whether or not that is still viable under that 1.6 number. If the engineering makes sense, they would continue as is. If there was additional drainage that were necessary, we would catch that at the
Address
DO
it.
phase and
Alright.
address it there.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, John. Anybody else have any questions for Jason? All right, thank you very much, Jason. Appreciate it. Gentleman from Fishtail? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. My name is Brock Petrak. I'm a civil engineer at Edgewater Group.
I'm sorry, Brad Petrick?
Brock.
Brock.
Brock Petrak.
That's a strong name.
Excuse me just
Yes,
one
he
second,
does.
Brock. Do you want to disclose where we are on this so we can have a discussion?
Yes, so I did discuss with Mr. Dunlap, and we've determined that he does not have a conflict of interest regarding this item. Any relationship that he has with the applicant's entity is similar to any relationship that they would have with any other individual in the public, and he is not obtaining any type of special benefit from that.
Wonderful. Mr. Petrick, are you speaking as a professional with professional services that you're giving to Fishtail?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's qualify you as a specialist, as an expert. Tell us a little bit about your qualifications as an engineer.
I have a civil engineering degree from Michigan Tech University, and I have my EI license from the Florida State Board of Professional Engineers.
And how long have you been practicing?
3 years.
Okay, very good. Could I have a motion
So
to
moved
accept?
for expert status?
Thank you.
Second.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Does anyone object? Hearing no objection, you're now officially an expert for us.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. All right.
That made you nervous, didn't it?
No. I'm confident in my expertise.
Wonderful. Of course.
With me today is Ron Schultz, our principal and CEO at Edgewater Group, Mike Flanagan representing Loggerhead Marinas, and Grant Phelan representing the family brand Pincher's Restaurant. What we're going to talk about today, as Jason just touched on, is the modification that we want for this property. I'm going to touch on the existing conditions and what got us here, the master plan that we've designed over the past year and a half or so, the proposed improvements included in that master plan, and then I'll summarize with some of the key elements. So as everybody knows, Hurricane Ian busted up the property quite significantly. Most of the dry storage was damaged significantly. Sheet metal removed. The wet slip docks actually floated above the piling that they were mounted to, and were kind of swept away out into the bay. So you can see the pictures. It was pretty banged up. It took a while to kind of get the property safe, and then we've gone through a number of times for master planning and proposing what you have in front of you today. The improvements we're looking to make, as Jason said, we are looking to return the property to a fully functional commercial marina. So not a private residential marina, but open to the public, open to transient boaters for the restaurant, for boater services. The idea of new layouts with both dry storage and wet slip storage is to improve the navigability of the marina itself, and as Jason touched on, to incorporate the accommodations for larger boats. The marina market is going towards larger boats, so we are not increasing the number of slips at this property, but we are looking to accommodate larger boats up to 45 feet now. Some of the other points in our master plan are adding what we're calling building number 9, which is a boater services and boat club office that includes, as Jason said, ADA restrooms and an ADA ramp. That'll really increase the product that we're producing for the client. The southern part of the plan you see in front of you, it's actually the western part, but Plan Southern has the future boaters sales and services out where the Walker Marine is now. Yes. So here's a high-level render of kind of what it looks like to return the project to its original capacity. That's what we're trying to do. You see Pincher's Restaurant rebranded in the northern corner there, as well as the new boater services building on the peninsula, and the dry stacks all returned to fully functioning buildings. As Jason said, we're reshifting how they lay out around the property to accommodate larger boats and the forklifts necessary for those larger boats. Here's another view from the fuel dock looking back at the new dry stack buildings. The only new dry stack buildings are numbers 4 and 7, which you're seeing the back face of now. Those are just replacing the buildings that were damaged and condemned in Hurricane Ian. Buildings number 1, 2, 3 on the right have been repaired. Here is again a high-level render of what the boater services and boat club office could look like. And here it is again with building 7, the new dry stack in the background there.
Can I stop you there for a second?
Go ahead.
Could you go back? So one thing I thought I noticed, and now I'm seeing it even clearer, what used to be what I'm gonna call the ship store and fuel and everything else, where has that moved? 'Cause it used to be right there.
On the left, I think, there.
Does this have a lighter on it, or a laser? Oh, but it doesn't hit the TV screen, yeah.
Walk up there. Yeah, if you would like to.
Yeah.
Just can't talk.
Yeah,
Right there.
you certainly may.
North of that, east of that. Yes, right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so what you're referring to would be out here on the peninsula
Oh,
for
okay.
boater sales. And then boat club refers to like rentals, and that's where you would have restrooms and showers now, all ADA accessible for.
And gas and a pair of
Gas and
sunglasses.
sales and everything is
all in
happening
there.
right out at the
Okay,
point.
so
It's more
still where it
accessible.
was.
Same place.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay. Thank you,
Yeah, great question.
thank you.
You're so smart.
All right, so to conclude here, a little summary. Again, we want to bring the marina back to full functionality, and in doing so, we want to modernize it and capture the existing market. The marina is going to remain open to the public. It's a commercial marina. We're bringing the new boat club building up to ADA compliance. The slip quantity, again, is not going to go up, but it's actually going to go down, and we're doing that to capture more length in our boats. The on-site restaurant is being rebranded as Pincher's, and that is coming back just as soon as we can get approved.
People are gonna be so happy,
I hope so.
The south end.
so happy.
We are losing weight on the south end.
And we're gonna improve parking and circulation around the site to accommodate all that. So,
Wonderful.
thank you guys. We're happy to answer any questions.
Yes, sir, hold on. Jim, any questions for the gentleman?
How many slips will we end up with in the end?
In the total, we'll end up around, I believe, 320 dry, which is the current approved, and we are going from 120 wet down to 99 wet
Okay,
now.
thank you. Zach?
Excellent. Don, any questions? How about you, Doug?
I just have one question. I saw in there the new boat dry storage would be buildings designed for 140 mile an hour winds. And that seems just slightly low, but maybe you can explain.
That's the existing language in the MCP from 1994. The buildings will be built to capture Hurricane 4 and 5, not, 140 is just what, the language that was
Oh, okay.
retained from the old
So you'll be,
MCP.
but your actual, when you get a building permit. it'll
Right,
be-
we still have to go through building permits,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Jane, any questions?
Not at this time.
How about you, Jim?
No question.
John?
I'd like to, in the spirit of Jim Adderhold, you mentioned that there's a water taxi place in the narrative, and you haven't mentioned that during the presentation.
Yeah, the best spot for a water taxi is anywhere where we have, significant broadside, so it'd be there, yeah. That also certainly benefits the restaurant, yeah.
Wonderful.
That'd be perfect.
That's a wonderful thing, thank you.
Yes. Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody else gonna speak?
Not
You
unless
don't?
they need to.
Well, I'd like Mr. Phelan to come up. And it's mostly because this is what everybody's going to ask me tomorrow. If you would come up for a second.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Well,
So super excited to be here. I can't
Say
believe
your name for the record.
Grant Phelan, Phelan Family Brands. So super excited that we're actually here. I can't believe it was almost 3 years ago driving to the beach today. Teared
can't
me
either.
up extremely, especially because I drive all of Southwest Florida all the time. And Fort Myers Beach got the worst of it. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. So we're excited. Obviously, we lost Pinchers across the street when the storm happened, and I think that was a great restaurant that people really enjoyed, and so we decided that when we were coming back over to Fishtail to reopen that restaurant, we were going to move Pinchers over to there. So excited to bring that concept to Fort Myers Beach, and anything I can do to help these guys get moving forward. We're ready, we're set, we're locked and loaded, and ready to get going and get in the permitting process as soon as we get approval.
So Grant, does that mean that if this passes here today and goes on to the town council and receives another approval, you'll be ready to go in for
100%.
permits?
We're
Oh,
ready
that's
to go.
It's so exciting. And so once you have your permits in hand, what does refurbishing and build out of that restaurant look like time-wise?
That's a great question.
Another one.
You know,
Two. Keep count.
obviously, knock on wood, we don't have any other challenges.
we're not going to.
We're not going to.
No.
3 to 6 months, I would say. Obviously, I would love to catch it as fast as we possibly can, but
Definitely open by Tuesday.
Season.
that would be the goal. That would be the goal.
So what I heard was if the approvals go through and the whole thing, it's up to staff how quick this happens?
In permitting, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And permitting.
Just trying to help you out there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. But yeah, we're ready to go. I mean, we have the staff, we have everything ready, so.
This community and the greater part of Lee County that comes down here, this is gonna be I hope that this is the headline for you today.
Thank you.
That and water taxi, those will be the two best things that everybody's gonna be excited about, so.
We're super excited.
We're tickled, we're just
We
really
bought
wonderful.
that restaurant from Al in
Yes.
April, and it was
Yes.
destroyed in October.
Yes, I know.
Al's
I know.
timing was fantastic.
Yes, it was.
I'll have those
Yes,
stories.
it was. Well, it's wonderful to meet you.
Nice to
Very
meet you guys,
Wonderful to
too.
meet you.
Thank you so
Any
much.
questions for Grant?
No.
Okay,
Thank you.
good luck, and
Thank you.
we look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
Anybody else want to come up?
Hello, everybody. So my name is Mike Flanagan. I am the regional manager for Equity Lifestyle Properties, so I represent the marina today. Happy to answer any questions about us or the marina. What I can say is that we are focused on obviously reopening the marina. We are long-term ownership. We have no intentions of selling the marina, changing it from commercial use. We plan to bring back boat rentals, fuel, the ferries, the restaurant. We're invested in the property long-term.
I have a question, and I'll be delicate how I ask it, so you can be delicate how you answer it, but on many of the proposals that we've seen come through the last couple of years, the reality of capital, commercial financing, private capital markets and all that comes up, and it's a real thing, and in some cases, an impediment. Are you all set up to be able to move quickly on that regard if the approval's happening according to plan?
Yes, yeah, financially, everything is ready to go. We do not go out and seek funding for
Okay,
anything. We pay for
very
everything
good.
in-house.
Excellent news.
I've
Jane?
got a friend that is buying a lot so that they can put their boat there because they hear it's a 2-year wait to get into a marina.
At some properties, yes. You know, due to the hurricane, we're down to about 75 customers on site, so we have a huge opportunity to backfill all of those needs.
Okay.
Because obviously you're gonna have 320 or so dry stock,
stock.
99 wet. You know,
Do
you
you
know, we're
really,
certainly accommodating Walker in that mix too.
do you really think it will take 2 years to get up and running?
No.
So what is your time frame on that?
So our time frame right now, we've already gone, you know, we're already seeking bids and things. We've already got a budget allocated for all of this. I mean, we're just waiting on the go-ahead. There's a good chance we could have the wet slips up and running by end of Q4, the beginning of Q4, if we got permits. Permits is what we're waiting on in order to move forward. The restaurant opening is basically aligned with the wet slips, which is why we're working with Grant, so, you know, he's ready to open when we know we're gonna have wet slips. The barn 7 and 8, that's what'll probably take about 12 months to finish. But the remainder of the marina fuel, we've already got permits for fuel tanks. Fuel should be online within 60, 90 days.
Okay.
We are gonna bring back boat rentals. We do have a boat club on site also. So all of those things are gonna start, you know, moving forward.
This is very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. And so you have the water taxi, which has been part of every single plan that's come to
Yes.
us, like Jim just said, financing water taxi, super important and very exciting to hear that. And, what about, so I have a store right there adjacent. I watched all of your demolition. They did such a good job. They were so clean. It was really amazing.
Good to hear.
But what will replace, I'm just gonna call it what used to be Al's offices, all that office space.
Yeah,
So you're gonna
so-
replace it with anything, or is it gonna be parking?
Yeah, so I know Brock was talking about all the different pieces. So the ship store that was out on the point, that is still there. That's where the offices will be now. So everything will be consolidated to the front. And as you know, before, we didn't really have restrooms there. I mean, there was 2 restrooms for the
Yes.
entire property. So that's why we're building the restroom facility and we're putting it out where all of the majority of the marina operations are. We tore down that building where the back office was with the little shipping store. That is all gonna become parking to the restaurant.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And we're gonna keep all the centralized marina operations out in the front, you know, where, by the waterfront.
Excellent, great plan. Any other questions for the gentleman?
I have one question.
Go ahead,
Just
Don.
because it's probably not a conflict, but it's a disclosure. I didn't realize it was Equity Lifestyles. You own communities throughout the U.S. and utilities.
Correct.
So I have,
Not utility, we own RV and mobile home communities.
you don't own any communities with water and wastewater utilities?
Well, they do
in
have
them?
wastewater utilities in the RV communities, yes.
So
Waste-
it's not current, but I have engaged with Equity Lifestyles in the past with respect to acquiring utilities. I don't
But
know
it
that
is
it's.
not current
It's not
at this
current.
point, and you are not receiving currently any type of special benefit or
Correct.
enumeration.
Correct. Okay.
I think you're
Sorry, that
okay.
didn't work out for you.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make sure, you know, because I didn't realize this was Equity.
Yeah, so Equity Lifestyle Properties, we have probably 15 or so properties in this market. Between mobile home communities, RV parks, all throughout the Fort
Wonderful.
Myers, Lee County, Charlotte County, all over.
Okay, any other questions for the gentleman? Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
We appreciate it. Anybody else want to be part of the presentation? You're gonna leave well enough alone, aren't you?
I think we're good. That's why Brock's here, so. I'm a senior engineer at Edgewater, so.
Okay, so, no other questions. We will move on to public hearing, the public comments. I'm glad for you all to meet this gentleman.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Justin Palaskis. I'm the owner and founder of Crow's Nest Charters. I wanted to speak on behalf of Fishtail Marina. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. To start, Fort Myers Beach has been my home since I was 6 years old. My roots are here. I had my very first job down the street at Beach Theater, and for over a decade I worked at Fishtail as a captain for their sightseeing tour boat. I spent countless days on the water sharing our local ecosystem with visitors and locals alike. And I can tell you firsthand, Fishtail Marina is more than just a marina. It's a hub for community, commerce, and coastal connection. Today I'm here to speak in full support of granting, expediting, permitting, and approvals needed to rebuild at Fishtail Marina. This isn't about rebuilding infrastructure. It's about restoring access. Fishtail is the only working marina on the south end of the island. It provides vital space for storage, local businesses, and marine services. Without it, the south end loses a key point of waterfront activity and access, not to mention a reliable destination for our many boaters and visitors. On a personal level, this is also where I hope to base a new water taxi service that would serve the entire island, from Santini Plaza all the way to the north end. This service would reduce road congestion, provide visitors with a scenic, eco-friendly alternative to traffic, and support local businesses by connecting people directly to where they want to go, restaurants, shops, and attractions such as marinas. But none of this is possible without safe, functional dock space at key terminals like Fishtail. We all know the road to recovery for me has been long and complex, but Fishtail has shown persistence and dedication in coming back. They're ready to invest, they're ready to serve, all they need is a green light. Please consider the legacy of the marina, the jobs that it supports, the environmental education it provides, and the role it plays in the future of transportation on our island. Let's work together to get this marina built, not just for one business, but for the benefit of the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin, very much. Anybody else want to speak on behalf of or opposed to the Fishtail Marina project? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Jason, do you have anything you want to follow up with, or everything pretty complete? Any questions from the LPA for Jason or the engineers, Mr. Phelan, anything? Okay. Any discussion on this? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion approving the ordinance of CPD 2025-0008, 7225 Estero Boulevard, otherwise known as Fishtail Marina, passing with, I don't believe there were any conditions even,
No.
As is.
Second.
There was one condition. Look on page 4 of the staff report. It says conditions of approval. They're pretty boilerplate.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
with conditions as recommended by staff.
Thank you, John.
Second.
And there was second by Dawn. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, your vote, John?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Jim?
Wish we had a golden buzzer and you'd skip right to approval, but aye here.
Doug?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Jim?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with the golden buzzer. Aye. Thank you very much. We look forward to you guys being back for sure.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Good luck. Good luck. And good luck, Justin.
Is that Janine's?
Okay, we're gonna take a 5 to 10 minute break, so anybody who hasn't reviewed the narrative statements that the neighborhood company mailed us last night can see them, and then
Madam
we'll come
Chair,
back.
could
Yes,
you
sir?
give a
Yes,
specific
I will.
time?
So it is now 9:30, it's 9:40, and we will be back at 9:50.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Okay, everyone, we're back. Mr. Sudduth has stepped out to take a call, but as soon as he's back, you'll see him sitting there. So the next item on our agenda is a special exception, SEZ 202-50046. This is 6425 Estero Boulevard, the Beach Theater. This is a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, approving with conditions, or denying special exception SEZ 202-50046 to allow, 1, consumption on premises, COP, outdoors within 500 feet of dwelling units, 2, new outdoor entertainment in the Commercial Boulevard CB zoning district, 3, new live entertainment in the CB zoning district, and 4, new outdoor seating that is open after sunset in the CP zoning district for the property located at 6425 Estero Boulevard, generally identified as strap number 344624W40046.0000, and approving for an effective date. Ex parte, John?
Yes, I have met with the neighborhood company and spoken with Patrick on the phone. I'd also like to disclose that I'm rebuilding my house on Egret Street, so this is directly in my neighborhood.
Okay, and we've all received emails. You
Yes, yeah,
received
of course,
emails as well?
yes.
Okay, Jim?
The same. I met with the neighborhood company regarding these two petitions and have received a number of emails.
Okay, Jane?
Same.
Don?
Doug.
Oh, Doug, I'm sorry. Yes, that's right.
Yes, I had a virtual meeting with Pat Vaness and the applicant, and, or representative of the applicant, and also we did receive an email that was pretty extensive.
From Christine Madden.
Correct.
Mhm.
That I read.
Okay, how about you, Jim?
Same, I think we received an additional email today. Like John, I live on Egret Street and one of the closest occupied dwellings to the new beach theater recommendation.
Okay, when Don comes in, we'll ask him to disclose. I did not meet with the neighborhood company, I just wasn't able to. But I have, I know this property well, and I have received all those emails. Okay, is anybody gonna testify as an expert today, Patrick, other than you? Nobody else? And Ken, but you have been sworn in, so, and so has Albert, if he is going to get up. Okay, very good, thank you. You don't need, you've already been sworn in, haven't you? Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Judith.
I'll be here in a few minutes.
Okay.
Good morning, Judith Franco with Community Development. Today we're
Judith,
going to...
I have to tell you, that's your color.
Oh, thank you.
That is your color. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Today, we're going to hear two applications relating to the property at 6425 Estero Boulevard, a special exception with 4 parts for consumption on premises, among other things, and a variance application relating to parking. We have to consider the applications separately and vote separately. I did want to make you aware, as I think that you already are, that the applicant's prepared narrative was mistakenly not included with the agenda materials. You have received a paper copy as well as a digital copy yesterday. And I believe between staff's presentation and the applicant's presentation, you'll have enough information to be able to make a decision today. Additionally, I also wanted to note that in the resolution, first for the special exception and for the variance, there was an error in the future land use category. The future land use category for this site is mixed residential. It was listed as boulevard, which is directly abutting the site. But in the staff report, it is correct and was reviewed correctly per the comp plan and land development code criteria. So that will be corrected in the resolutions. Okay. The property owner, Estero 4148 LLC, and their agent, the neighborhood company, are requesting a special exception for 6425 Estero Boulevard for 4 aspects relating to consumption on premises of alcohol, outdoor entertainment, live music, and outdoor seating after dark. The code requires that all bar or cocktail lounge use within 500 feet of residences and outdoor bars or lounge space within 500 feet of residence receive special exception. So this is a question of location of their residences to this property. The property was previously a movie theater with food service. The applicant is proposing the redevelopment of the property as a restaurant and bar on the first level above flood, and a bar with games and entertainment area on the open ground floor. The second story above flood will be used for storage and office space. So it's a 3-story building, ground level, kind of a casual restaurant, entertainment. Second floor, a more high-end steakhouse, and then the third floor, which is the second floor above flood, for storage and office for the restaurant uses. No substance changes are proposed to the parking lot adjacent to the building, which previously contained 34 spaces and will be slightly modified to provide 2 ADA parking spaces for a total of 33 spaces. Exterior improvements to the structure include a deck with a shade structure for restaurant seating on the first level above flood that extends towards Estero Boulevard approximately 15 feet. A wall at the rear of the building on the first floor to block sound and light from the bar and entertainment area to the adjacent single-family residential properties. A type C buffer with a fence along the property line adjacent to the single-family residential property, as well as landscaping. The building modifications themselves do not require any variances or special exceptions. The building is currently a non-conforming for the CB zoning district setbacks, which require a build-to line of 5 to 10 feet. So the code actually asks that this building be closer to Estero Boulevard, so by extending that deck on the second level, they're closer to compliance. So it's a decrease of the non-compliance. So the first special exception for consumption on premises outdoors within 500 feet of dwelling units. There's specific criteria that the attachment to the ordinance goes through for each of these, but I'm going to hit the highlights in terms of compliance. For special exceptions, we look at Land Development Code Section 34-88, and it asks whether the request is consistent with the Fort Myers Beach Comprehensive Plan. Policy 4A1 encourages the town's human scale and redevelopment. This proposed outdoor bar space would create a human scaled use at the ground level as opposed to an automobile use at a human scale in a location that was previously designed for cars. So underneath the building was previously a parking area. So now there's a accessible street level use happening in that space. Policy 1A1 recommends that improvements along Estero Boulevard should make walking more interesting. This proposed development, while set off the road, will add variety to the walk along the boulevard. Because of that, staff recommends approval of the consumption on premises outdoors. The second special exception request is for new outdoor entertainment in the Commercial Boulevard zoning district. The code requires that any new outdoor entertainment in the Commercial Boulevard zoning district receive a special exception. The proposed outdoor entertainment may not be appropriate in this location. If amplified music or entertainment is too loud at inappropriate times, it could create a nuisance for the neighborhood. While the outdoor entertainment complies with the previously stated policy 4A1 and policy 1A1, we also looked at policy 4A3, which states that the town should protect residential neighborhoods from intrusive commercial activities. Some would consider that outdoor entertainment to be intrusive, although the development is located adjacent to Estero Boulevard and not internal to the residential neighborhood. Because of that, staff recommends denial of the second request. The third special exception request is for new live entertainment in the CB zoning district. Again, while the live entertainment complies with the previously stated policy 4A1 and policy 1A1 and policy 4A3, Live entertainment could be provided indoors and have almost no impact on surrounding properties. So the live entertainment, if the second request is denied for outdoor music, but the third is approved, they could have live entertainment inside the building, but not outside. So in that case, staff would recommend approval for the request for live entertainment. Request 4 is for new outdoor seating that is open after sunset in the CB zoning district. Staff does not find that the proposed outdoor seating should cause a nuisance, and staff recommends approval of the outdoor seating after sunset request. We have several conditions of approval, but I can go through them after the presentation.
Yes. Thank you very much, Judith,
Do the variance for parking.
because that's a second case.
So we have to vote on
Yes.
that separately. It's important to consider
Separately.
that, but we have to look at them separately.
Okay.
Thank you, Judith. Any questions for Judith at the moment? Appreciate it. Patrick?
Thank you, Judith. All right, Judith just made my job much easier. Did a great job. Good morning, my name is Patrick Vanaz. I'm a certified planner with the Neighborhood Company. Joining me this morning, I have two representatives of the ownership group. We have Steve Bogue and we have Corey Nanke in the audience, representing the property owners.
I don't think you told us how you feel today, Patrick.
I will get there, sir.
Okay.
You know,
I was waiting for that
the
too.
good news that I have for everybody here, and especially for Jim, is that next year, not the South Beach diet, but the South End diet ends. Nancy, you look bewildered. Do we need to explain that one to you?
We'll talk after that.
Okay. So, I also have, Ken Galander, who you all know, certified planner with the Neighborhood Company here. And rounding out the team, we have Albert Dambros, the architect. And I just want to let you know, Nick is not here with Stevens Construction, but they already have a contractor on board, ready to go. They've been working behind the scenes and, they want to get going real quick also. Great contractor. So, with that said, I come before you very happy today to talk about the retrofitting and reuse of the beach bar, the beach theater. However, I will share how I feel from a broader standpoint. You know, we worked very hard as a community to rebuild and to recover from these hurricanes. I'm a little frustrated. Last few weeks I've been very frustrated actually, because we've, you know, it feels like we've stepped back a little bit here with Beach Elementary, and we've had some very disappointing news from the school district. I'm not gonna belabor this, but rest assured that the parents, the community, and town officials are rallying behind us and rallying behind the school. And we're gonna work very hard to remind the district that they have a contract with us, that we've honored our end of the bargain, and we expect the same from them. So enough said about that. Let's go back to the subject at hand. We have two requests before you. If I can have a little leeway as we go through the special exceptions, I'm okay with discussing parking. I think it kind of addresses the entire context of the use. So feel free to ask me questions about that. I know we will deal with that separately and have a separate motion associated with that, but I think it's relevant to the use itself. So we'll start off talking about the various special exceptions. I'll give you a little background. We all know where the subject property is. It's about 0.7 acres. Future land use category is mixed residential, the existing zoning, commercial boulevard. The property currently is undergoing some improvements. The building, however, has sat vacant for over 2 years. So general location at towards the south end of the island. a little more specific here, if we look at adjacent uses, to the north of us, we have Curlew Street, and beyond that, we have a vacant commercial lot. That was the prior home to Charlie's Boathouse. And beyond that, we have our brand-new town hall. South of that property, we have Egret Street. And across from Egret, we have a vacant single-family home. And we also have a vacant commercial lot where the Dolphin Inn used to be. To the east of us, we have vacant single-family residential lot abutting us directly. Beyond that, single-family homes. We also abut the canal on the east side. On the west side, we have Estero Boulevard. Beyond Estero, multifamily condos, and more specifically, the Privateer and Sanderac are located across the street. Judith mentioned a little bit what is being planned over there. So just so you're aware, they want to try to move quickly, be open for end of next season. They are doing that through the post-disaster build back regulations.
End of 2026 season?
Yes.
Okay.
And the 50% rule. As mentioned, the concept is on the ground level, a casual restaurant, on the first floor, above, have a fine dining steakhouse and seafood restaurant. Some of the other ancillary uses, we have a very big building. As you all know, there's 4 theaters in there. They're getting creative of how they can use the space, but there's gonna be some office space in there, and there will be some storage space. Also, when we look at the floor plans, what you'll see is they're gonna have a huge kitchen. So Corey is the restaurant guy of the group. I'm sure Corey is gonna be very happy with very large kitchens, plenty of space for him and his staff.
Patrick, may I stop you for a moment? Don, did you have any ex parte for Beach Theater?
Just that I met with the neighborhood company and went through the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So from a site improvement standpoint, obviously the downstairs under the building will be improved. Parking lot is gonna be updated, and there's gonna be some new landscaping and buffering surrounding the property. The building itself, the exterior is gonna have not that much retrofitting. It will have a new outdoor deck space area, and I've got a rendering coming up showing what that's gonna look like. And most of the activity, most of the retrofit is gonna be occurring inside. They're reworking the entire inside, and I've got a floor plan right now. It is a little preliminary. I think Albert is still making some changes and fine tuning that, but we'll show you what it's gonna look like on the inside. As mentioned, it's a reuse of an existing building. It did get hit hard, just like everybody else on Fort Myers Beach with Ian, but it's a strong, sturdy building. It came out pretty well, hence the ability to just use the 50% rule and be able to rebuild and retrofit. Efficient use of existing buildings, and also this ability to move quicker and faster. If this were a brand new restaurant that you had to construct, we'd be looking at multiple years before it would reopen. As mentioned, the hope is that by the end of next season, we have 2 brand new restaurants, and that, Nancy, is why the South End diet is gonna end.
Got it.
There you go. So as mentioned, we put in one general application for special exceptions. It's all associated with uses on the property. However, the way our code works and this new CB district that we amended last year, a lot of these uses that are now allowed, they're allowed through the special exception process. So that's why it's broken down into consumption on premises, outdoor entertainment, live entertainment, and outdoor dining. There's a bit of an overlap with the outdoor entertainment, live entertainment, but live entertainment includes anything indoors also. So I'm not gonna go through the parking at this point. We can go back to that. When we look at justifying these special exceptions, the idea is to always look at reasons why we are requesting that. Obviously, hurricane damage, but also to establish those new uses and to comply with the new language for the CB district. We have to explain potential impacts to neighboring communities. So in our application and in our presentation today, we want to express that we believe that through numerous mitigation measures, we address that compatibility issues. And we believe that with those mitigation efforts in place, we will have little or no impact to surrounding properties. And we believe that hopefully not only is this property and these uses a benefit to the immediate neighbors, but the entire south end. So from a hardship standpoint, and that applies more to the variances, the existing lot configuration, that's an existing lot, the property is configured a certain way, we can't change that. The building is already there, we can't change that. And also regulations have changed. My understanding is this building was approved through a DO process with Lee County years ago. And since then, we've incorporated, the zoning has also changed from a CB district, which has gone from very restrictive to a lot more open on Fort Myers Beach. These are the LDC sections associated with the various special exceptions. No need to go into those in any kind of detail. I'll skip that. That's associated with the parking variances. And here's a rendering of what the beach theater is going to look like. Again, concept is very similar to what we have with Junkanoo and Fresh Catch. So outdoor open, casual, ground level, above, higher end restaurant, steakhouse, and seafood. The biggest change to the exterior of the building is that outdoor deck. It will be covered to provide some shade, and will also provide some shade to some of the outdoor seating downstairs. We're gonna jump into looking at the floor plans for each level. This is the ground level floor plan. The areas you see in teal is restaurant seating. The area in yellow is large central bar area with seating. And the area that you see in that, is that purple?
Gray.
Purplish color?
Yeah.
Mauve. Is gonna be an accessory game area. We're talking about stuff like the giant Jenga blocks and tabletop games and cornhole. Nothing like arcade or anything like that that would be noisy, or electronic devices. And if you look at your packet, that's one of the conditions that staff put in there. I'll go through all those conditions, and we don't have a problem with that conditions whatsoever. What I'd like to point out also is the rear part of the building, so that's on the upper portion of this exhibit. That area is currently open. You've got columns, but those are open bays. That's gonna be completely enclosed, concrete block, frangible wall, but there's gonna be some new bathrooms put in there, and also a service area. Kitchen's gonna be upstairs, but there's gonna be a dumbwaiter. That'll be the service area for downstairs. That creates some separation buffering, so any live entertainment, that's an additional layer. And we'll talk about the buffering also surrounding the property when we look at the site plan. The little hatched area at the front of the building is the entertainment area. We don't know yet if it's gonna be a stage or just where the location of entertainers will be, but we push that towards the front, bring it close to the street, create this interaction with the public realm. Also, it's the furthest location away from the neighbors, and any kind of sound will be projected towards the parking lot. this is the first floor above the casual dining restaurant. This will be the steakhouse. As you can tell, we've got a very large building, lot of space. I know that all of you are familiar with the Beach Theater. We're all gonna be a little sad to see it go. Unfortunately, due to the storm, but also due to economics associated with theaters nowadays, it's a very challenging business. We don't think it's the highest and best use. We believe that restaurants with some entertainment will much better serve the south end of the island. We're all gonna be sad to see it go. One of the things that we've talked about internally, we've been asked, are you gonna keep a theater? No, we're not gonna keep a theater, but I think they're looking into, can we have a projector and project old movies on one of the walls inside to kind of honor the history of the theater and kind of make it a fun, attractive feature of the restaurant. So if we start from the top of the slide, which is the back part, on the right side, you've got a very, very large kitchen. It'll probably be almost 2 kitchens, one for the steakhouse and one for downstairs. Cross in the green is gonna be office space again. They've got so much space to work with, they had to find creative uses. We've got 2 very large private dining areas. Again, did not need all that space just for a steakhouse. So the idea with those private rooms is you can have private parties, or if you're a large group, you can reserve the room and have a little privacy. Front portion of the building will be all the restaurant seating with the bar identified in yellow. To the left of the exhibit is large space associated with bathrooms that were already there. Those will be retrofitted, but keeping the bathrooms in the same spot. And we are gonna have a new opening at the front of the theater that's gonna connect to the outdoor deck, and we'll have outdoor seating there and stairs going downstairs. The upstairs was, the 3rd level was the projection rooms. That will just be used for storage at this point. No specific use really identified for it. It's surplus space at this point. So this is the regulatory site plan that we have provided to you. The light gray area is that existing at-grade parking lot that will remain. As Judith mentioned, we're gonna put some ADA spots. I think we had 34 spots with that reconfiguration. We're at 33 spots there. We're gonna have bike parking and golf cart parking also. The area in the darker gray is gonna be the restaurant under the building. We are eliminating the parking associated with that. And when we talk about the parking variances, and we had an opportunity to speak to most of you individually, we know we're gonna have to talk about parking. We understand that. We know there are concerns. We believe we have multiple solutions to address that issue. Again, we can keep that to the next presentation, but just, I think we've discussed that one-on-one. We think we have solutions. We think we can address that. We're not concerned about that at this point. And happy to answer any questions, but barring any questions, we'll address that separately at the next agenda item. So with regards to the property that is closest to us, at the rear of the property abutting us, as mentioned, we're gonna have concrete block walls at the back of the building. We are also gonna have a 15-foot type C buffer that's gonna be enhanced. The enhancement is, instead of having 18 shrubs like the code calls for, we are gonna have a continuous hedgerow and 6-foot opaque fence. We think that with the combination of the wall and the fence and the buffering, we provide that proper shielding and sound attenuation required. On the northern side and western side, we're gonna keep what was previously approved from a buffering standpoint. Those areas do not require any buffering, but there was buffering there. We are gonna replant that and provide those buffers there. I believe along Curlew, what was previously there was a 10-foot buffer. Along Estero, the portion associated with the ag-grade parking, there was a 10-foot buffer there. We're gonna continue that. And where the building is a lot closer to Estero, that strip narrows down. The intent was to put back the landscaping that was there, but we're limited in space. We identified that as a 5-foot buffer, but the idea was there was a hedge there. It was to replant that continuous hedge. On Egret Street, same thing. You've got a lift station, and some areas get a little narrow. We identified that as a 5-foot landscaping strip. However, the idea was replant that continuous hedge along Egret. And there's already a bunch of existing trees there, and keep all those trees and supplement some of the trees with what's been lost through the storm. So just quickly reiterating what staff discussed, when it comes to consumption on premises, staff recommends approval. We're not gonna belabor that in any way. When it comes to the outdoor entertainment, we believe that outdoor entertainment is part of the fabric of Fort Myers Beach. We think that it is complementary to the restaurant uses, and that people will want outdoor entertainment on the south end. We understand the concerns. We have provided some mitigation. We are happy to discuss the issue with you. As mentioned, concrete block wall back to the building, type C enhanced buffer. Also, we are gonna bring the live entertainment to the front, any sound towards the parking. The hours of operation for the restaurants are limited from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. I know 7 a.m. is early. We don't anticipate breakfast service. What we do anticipate is that people will go in there and start prep early in the morning. So that's why we have those hours of operation. When it comes to amplified sound, we have proposed 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. In the individual discussions with you, I don't think that was reflected in our application, but it was something that we had talked internally, and what I expressed to you is the performers will be limited to singles and duos. I've carried this forward. It's something we talked about, and I think that's a way to alleviate some concerns. It's not gonna be rock bands. We're not gonna have drums, similar to discussions we've had at other establishments. And last but not least, we will comply with the town noise ordinance. So again, we think this is something that people will want to see. We think it's a benefit to the restaurants and to the south end, and we respectfully request that you support the outdoor entertainment. When it comes to live entertainment, the distinction, as Judith mentioned, is that it applies to any kind of entertainment inside. There is an overlap with outdoor entertainment, but staff supports that one. We're gonna skip right through it. The new outdoor seating, that's both for the restaurant under the building and also the new deck, and staff recommends approval. Next slide is addressing some of the criteria. So the review criteria, section 3488, are the guidelines that you have to keep in mind in evaluating these applications. So number one is, are there any change conditions that would warrant these special exceptions? As discussed, the hurricanes, the economic challenges associated with theaters, and current conditions and the need for restaurants on the south end warrant this special exception. Testimony of the applicant, that's what we're doing right now. Number three, recommendation from you as an LPA and staff. That's also what we're doing right now. Testimony of the public. We have a few people that will talk today. Happy to consider their comments and address their concerns. And consistency with the comp plan. That's in our narrative in the staff report, but quickly reiterating that we are consistent with policies 1A1, 4A1, 4A3, 4B4. Moving right along, whether this meets or exceeds performance locational development standards in the LDC. As mentioned, we exceed buffering requirements. The building is existing, so it's a redevelopment. When it comes to nonconformities and our distance from Estero, the deck is actually reducing that nonconformity. Number 7, protect, conserve environmentally critical areas. As you may know, there was a bit of a snafu associated with the mangroves. That's something that's been discussed with staff. There was a miscommunication between their environmental consultant and the ownership group. They thought they were all good with the state approvals. They failed to understand that they also needed a local development order. Since then, they've rectified that. They have both a DEP permit in hand and a local development order permit in hand. And as part of that development order permit, they will be making improvements to the canal front and their docks there, but they will also be replanting mangroves, and they will be maintaining those at 36 inches. Whether the request is compatible with surrounding properties and does it create a detriment to neighbors? As mentioned, we believe that through our buffering, screening, and operational restrictions that we are indeed compatible. And the last item there is, are we consistent with general zoning provisions? Yes, we are, and I think that's echoed in the staff report. So with that said, all my other slides are associated with parking, so we'll skip through those. As mentioned in talking with all of you, we do know that the two hot items associated with this retrofit and the proposed uses are outdoor entertainment and addressing that, and the amount of parking and solutions associated with the parking request. So we're happy to listen to public comment, answer your questions, and discuss those issues.
Thank you, Patrick. Jane?
In the package on page 11, number 2, hours of amplified music is listed there from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays and from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. on weekends. In this supplement, it is 7 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week, and then
Is that the, so I'll jump to the staff recommendations. So, so in the staff report, the conditions of approval, this is the list of conditions of approval. This is as good of a time to discuss this as any. So number 1, all music and entertainment on the property will be in compliance with the town's noise regulations. We agreed, not a problem with that condition. Hours of amplified music will be limited to from 11 to 9 p.m. We respectfully request to keep our proposed live entertainment hours from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Number 3 was no consumption of alcohol shall be permitted outside of the entertainment and seating areas as depicted on the attached plan. We agree, but just to clarify the terminology, we identify those areas as restaurant area, bar, and accessory game area. I think we're talking about the same areas, but just to clarify that in the final condition. Games in the entertainment area cannot include loud electronic beeping, ringing, or buzzing. We completely agree with that. Development must comply with LDC sea turtle conservation requirements, completely agree with that. Redevelopment of the docks must receive an approved LDO, DO, as determined by Community Development Department. We agree with that, and we have those in hand. The dumpster enclosure shall be refurbished. Also, we agree with that, not a problem. And with the limited pickup, no pickup on Sundays. And then any violation of the conditions of approval shall render the special exceptions null and void. We agree, but we'd like to add any unremedied violation. So I think that answers your question, and thank you for that segue. And we got to address all the conditions.
Okay. Any other questions, Jane?
Not at this time.
Don, are you leaning in for a question?
No, not specifically, no.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Patrick at the moment?
I do have a question. On the mezzanine level, is there elevator access to that level?
Not that? Yes, there is.
Yeah.
It, on the diagram, it showed elevator, but it didn't look like, it looked like elevator equipment, not elevator access. That's why I was asking for the clarification.
Okay, yeah.
Jim, any questions?
Yeah. I think as we discussed, one additional condition would be that performances would be limited to solos and duos.
Yep, we,
Right.
that works, yeah.
Is that in there?
It's not now.
It's not,
Okay.
It's on your slide, you represent.
yeah.
Under, let's see, if we can go back to the slide that has the rendering of the building. This isn't the downtown
This one, Jim, is
district.
that-
Yes, this is, isn't the downtown district, and so, in the neighborhood, was there any consideration given to continuing that opaque fence around the liquor, or around the restaurant area on the lower level to control ingress and egress, and sort of
Down Egret Street?
both on Egert and along Estero, sort of regulating so that people with drinks can't walk out and walk into the neighborhood, or if they're parked on the side street.
Just to clarify, Jim, are you talking about kind of enclosing the sidewalls, or are you talking a separate fence?
Either one, just some way of controlling access to the facility for people that may be in and wanting to leave carrying their drinks.
Well, I'll do my best to answer this with limited information, but I can turn to the owners and also to Albert. When it comes to enclosing the building, I think they've looked at various scenarios, but I think the idea is, at this point, keeping some of those bays open for open air, and so it doesn't get too hot in there. And there's still FEMA restrictions associated with what you can do on the downstairs.
Well,
Albert-
fencing would work too.
So I think for us, the preference is, and there are limitations, any kind of fencing along a right-of-way has to be low fencing. You
Right.
can't have high fencing. There is no buffer required along a right-of-way for commercial in our code. What was previous there was a hedge. And I think if you put a nice thick hedge, you do prevent that. My preference is always to use landscaping as a means of controlling folks rather than kind of a hard fencing. So
That
I think.
landscaping would not
No,
prevent
no,
anybody.
no, this is, I think you can blame Albert for that one.
Yeah.
We didn't do that rendering, but I think a continuous hedge, architects are looking more at showcasing the building, not really addressing the landscaping, but a continuous hedge, we don't have a problem with that. And looking at a species of hedge that is thick and can prevent access,
Thorns.
we're not concerned. with having to do that.
Maybe a little further discussion on, the hours of operation of the music. And I know that when I met with you, we talked about town council's recent, limitations that they placed on the food court, both on days and on hours and on decibels.
Yeah.
And other than the staff recommendation on shorter hours than what you're requesting, was there any discussion about days of operation or levels of, I know we talked about ambient
Yeah.
music and different speakers, different places.
Yeah.
To me, that all sounds like noise.
Yeah, well, we, hopefully it's melodic noise. But, yes, and we talked about this one-on-one and we had those conversations. So I, one of the reasons I've got Ken here is Ken was involved with some of those projects. And we went back and we looked at some of the conditions that have been imposed on different projects. And to be honest with you, it's a bit of a mixed bag. And food truck was actually more the exception to the rule than it was. So we also worked on Sandy Bottoms, we have the Whale, we have the Cottage, we have those as examples. And the most restrictive is the food truck park. And I think there are numerous reasons for that, but it's more of an exception to the rule. We felt that what we were proposing, again, with island kind of music, we're not talking about rock bands, with having a structure, creating some sound attenuation and buffering, and the distance, and bringing that right close to stereo, we thought that provided sufficient mitigation. Obviously, we'd like to hear what the public's gonna say. We'd like to hear your comments, and I think, if you're okay with that, is we're gonna take that into consideration, obviously have discussions with the owners, and see where we go from there.
Patrick, I share that concern. It is my primary concern, because what I see happening is Curlew and Egret turning into Primo and Palermo. But those are downtown streets. It's almost expected. These are not downtown streets. This is the south end of the island. I mean, it's quiet by and large. And it's a big concern. I wouldn't approve your outdoor entertainment right now.
And it was before the storm, it was quiet, right?
It
There
was
were
very
businesses
quiet.
there, but
This is
they were all
brand new.
inside.
This is brand new.
Um,
So it's a brand new use for that.
What I would submit though is I don't personally believe that it's a fair comparison. So the south end has always been a different character.
Right.
We had the outrigger with a tiki bar.
On the beach, way away from anybody.
No, but
With a
my
motel
point
in
is,
front of it.
my point is, that tiki bar never got rowdy like downtown. We, even our most active bar type of.
How often did you go there?
I was gonna say, I was there quite a bit, it was quite loud, but just at the bar. Just at the bar.
It was pretty subdued.
Okay,
So.
we'll agree to disagree.
But I think that the south end is different in character. I understand the concerns, and like I said, we're happy to address those. But I think the downtown and the south end are different in nature.
That's the exact reason why I object to it.
And even our most lively places, close down pretty early, and people were in bed pretty early no matter what. So, what I would say is we're happy to listen. I think there are ways to mitigate for that. I think people want to see outdoor entertainment. It's part of the character of the island, and I think it's complementary to those restaurants. Happy to provide the proper mitigation. Hopefully, we alleviate those concerns, but we will listen to
Okay.
all the comments and hopefully.
Anybody else have any comment on this?
I don't know if
Or
it's a comment,
anything?
just a point of clarification. So the consumption on premises outside, it would include the bottom,
Upstairs,
but also the top,
Yes.
the outsides, okay. So, I got you.
And I think the way it's written now, even indoor consumption on premises in the CB district, if it's within 500 feet of
Exactly.
residential, you still have to ask for it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it did have it, the building had it
Yeah.
before, but,
Yeah.
inside.
Any other questions?
And the downstairs has a full bar, not just wine and beer?
Full bar.
Okay.
So here's my other question relative to noise. So to me, this turns into a great party spot on the south end of the island. And it seems a natural downstairs in that game area to expand upon games. And now we have football games and those, you know, I mean, I love football season and I'm loud during football season. So, especially with a bar attached. So I think that could be, was there any intention of adding TVs and that sort of stuff?
Yes, and I can let Albert and the owners address that. I don't think they finalized the design, but I think they did have the intent of having games on and TVs downstairs.
It's a whole different type of noise.
Yeah.
Okay.
One other just a quick comment. Was there any thought about, you know, I think you said even when we met, like there's a lot of space upstairs, right? I mean, you got these private dining rooms and that, and I just, was there any thought about, you know, because for me, if you just had that porch on the front, on the upper level, facing the beach, you can start to talk about it seeming a little bit like Outrigger. But downstairs, because of its, you know, being a cavern and an echo cavern, I think there's a lot more risk there. And, you know, the mangroves are gone, right? I know they're going to be 3 foot or whatever. And so I wondered if there was any thought, because it's a massive building. Like you could almost do 2 concepts upstairs.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if there was any thought to that.
Yeah, I think the owners looked at a bunch of different configurations, but I'll let Corey talk to this. He's the restaurant guy, but I think to really have 2 distinct restaurants, having separate spaces makes a lot more sense.
It does.
I think from a business standpoint, also just from a customer experience. I think that personally, I think that people will go upstairs to a fine dining establishment, but for a more casual area, I think ground level makes a lot more sense. And I think creating these 2 distinct areas is part of their business plan, works a lot better. So there was multiple reasons for it. And Corey, do you want to add anything to it?
I think you're accurate.
Corey, if you want to speak, you have to come up. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I think Corey's going to come up. I'll have a follow-up question.
Yeah, me too.
Hello, my name's Corey Yankee. Background is lots of restaurants in Iowa. This will be our first endeavor into Southwest Florida. I've been here about 20 years, on and off, living here in Southwest Florida the last 8 years.
Sir, would you consider yourself an expert in restaurants?
I would think so, yes.
Okay, may we accept him as an expert in his field of restaurants?
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. Okay.
So I think for the property, just the feel of it, the lower level being outside, open air is what Florida's about. The casualness is probably what I prefer from a day-to-day, want to go grab a sandwich, want to go have a beer at the bar. I think that's probably the reason I wanted to do that, is because that's where I'd want to go. That's where I'd want to, spend my time. So to build it out that way and use that main floor, I think that's just what the feel is to us. There's so many people walking by. I mean, Steve might want to attest to this too, because he's felt it and had those conversations with people about, we're so excited, we walk every morning right past here. We'd love to come in, grab a bite, grab a coffee. I know we talked about not doing breakfast, but there's so many people that I think really would love that. So maybe that'd be a future consideration as well. But to talk to your point of the lower level, I think the desirability to walk right into a place with open air rather than going upstairs in a kind of a windowless building, kind of a closed off, I think it's a better feel. I think it's a better vibe, I guess. When we talk about music, I don't think this is a music venue at all. I think it's just simply ancillary. I think it's an expectation of a restaurant anymore, and you go downtown and almost all the locations have a guy playing for a couple hours, or, you know, usually.
But that's a
one-
very
usually-
big departure. What you're saying right now is a huge departure from what you're saying and what's being requested.
Okay,
Couple of hours
A
versus.
couple of
Yeah.
hours here or
Yeah.
there.
With
And
one
some
guy and a
say-
guitar, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay, but from 7 AM to 10 PM or 10 AM to 10 PM, totally
yeah, but
different
that's
ball
giving a
wax.
range of timeframes. Maybe that's what it says, but our anticipation is not to have someone play for 12 hours a day. I mean, that is far from what we're
What
wanting
would
to
your
be there.
anticipation be?
When the demand is there, when the customer says, "That'd be really great for you guys to have somebody from
That's
4
hard
to
for us
6."
to quantify.
Yeah. But it's probably 11 to 9.
Yeah,
You know,
I
it's
understand
when
that.
somebody's sitting at the bar,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Sure,
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Members, it would be a permission or a right that you would be granting them.
Yes, that's
Oh,
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
we understand,
It's a huge departure, what he's saying is to what
Right,
Patrick
right.
presented.
Although he's
So-
saying he may not use it, nevertheless, he has it.
That's
Right.
right.
And there might be a 4th of July where you're like, we got a lot of people down here. That's probably a bad example of Southwest Florida. But, you know, there might be a time frame. There's a long weekend where there's a lot of people in
Sure.
town, and you'll want to, you know, have
Bring 'em
3
in.
artists for 2 hours each, and
It could be addressed with a special permit.
Special
yeah.
permit, yeah.
that sounds like a challenge, but yes.
No, it's not, they're very good with those here, yeah.
Yeah. Very
You
casual
said you
vibe.
had a follow-up question
Yeah,
on,
and again, I shouldn't sit here and try to, you know, design your restaurant, but again, my big concern is gonna be parking and the people around it, and somebody said earlier about parking on the streets, and that is one of my biggest concerns. I love the open air, like, I agree with you, like, that's where I wanna go. Doesn't have windows upstairs, so that's great, but I still look at that rendering and say, man, if you had just wrapped that, if you just brought that all the way around the building there and had an outdoor venue upstairs, use the inside maybe as more formal and the outside as more casual. Again, I'm worried about the parking, and so unfortunately you're taking the parking, a good bit of it for that space. I totally love the idea, love the concept, I'm just trying to figure out how to make it all fit. Cause you got a big space upstairs, and, you know, it seems like if we could have found that, and my always question to a business owner is, does it work? You know, does the project hunt with just the upstairs, you know, or maybe with an expanded upstairs?
yes, Jim?
Corey, let's talk about culture for a second, because you run a lot of restaurants. They have various reputations. There's expectations of both behavior, quality, service, as you go through that. And culture is what leads when you're not around. And the reason I bring it up that way is when you think about controlling the casual environment, the spontaneity of it, the openness of it, I love all that too. If you got a bartender and a young server and somebody gets into their game, as we're talking about those other type of things, if that isn't tightly controlled by the right leadership on site all the time, when necessary, we'll set the culture and deal with the exceptions to that, it starts to expand itself just because of behavior. So can you talk a little bit about how you're gonna manage and contain what is completely open and exposed through leadership or oversight or management of itself, rather than what will just happen is when minimal staff, and we know that. I'm not trying to be insultive, just trying to get you to talk a little bit how you run things.
Good question.
Got one.
So in our existing restaurants, we have patios in Iowa, believe it or not.
Sure.
They're fairly limited, but they're fairly busy because we have such a limited time frame that it's beautiful out. So, our municipality there requires kind of just full-time service. I mean, you can't just have a patio that is unattended. Most of ours aren't set up like this because they're not open air. This one, you'll have a lot of visibility, rather than in Iowa, we have a door you go out to a patio because
Sure.
you've got everything closed. But still, it's kind of managing that whole process, and it's about training, it's about service, you know, not over-serving people. I think that's probably our, you know, biggest thing that we've always been good at is, you know, people go to bars and restaurants for different reasons, but
I don't think the south side is quite as crazy as downtown sometimes, and I don't think the behaviors are
We
probably.
just haven't had a chance to be lately, so.
A lot of pent up demand. Give us an
First week, we're
opportunity.
okay. But yeah, I get your concerns. I mean, it's gonna be all about managing, you know, are we ever gonna have issues? I'm sure we are in the restaurant business. There's always, you know, you don't know where somebody's been prior. Somebody might come from downtown and they've been, or on the beach all day.
All that is
Yeah.
absolutely not only possible, but probable.
Yeah,
I'm looking for the local leadership, the
Sure.
people that are gonna stand in the property, that own the place, run the place, you delegate their authority to whoever, to both reassure us and demonstrate over whatever period of time, because we've seen many approvals come through, and the stories of abuse from the neighbors are prolific about
Right.
how it spills. I think that's the owner's responsibility. I think the way you set up the expectations for your staff, the way you remove people that don't belong there and set that example, all that matters. That's what I'm looking to hear. And since you have 11 other
Sure.
facilities, you have experience with
I
this, so
think
convince us.
the only, the thing that will be important to us is the longevity of the business. And if we have unruly guests, you're not gonna wanna be there, and we just can't tolerate that. So, I mean, we'll have to get people that don't belong, don't act appropriately, out of the location. I don't anticipate this being a 2 o'clock in the morning restaurant. Will that happen a few times a year? We hope so for the business sake. But mostly food service, entertainment of all sorts of different things that we're thinking about that might be enjoyable to locals. When it comes to the parking thing, we anticipate people walking, people biking, people golf carting. That's why we added some of those options. There's tons of units so close to that property. We're hoping that people love it and enjoy it, and those are our customer base. So,
Could I ask you a question about compatibility?
Sure.
So, I love a nice restaurant, but I don't wanna spend, $200-300 on dinner out there on that lovely patio and listen to people rooting for their team underneath. I find, in my business, I would call that scrambled merchandising. You're pitching to two completely different clients. An upscale, you're dressed up, you're out to dinner with your favorite person, you're having a lovely time, and then immediately downstairs, you've got people who are just having a good time, which is great.
Sure.
Do you not find a conflict there? I mean, you brought up Fresh Catch. Fresh Catch is, they're separated, and there's no games, so it's not, but still, you go into Fresh Catch, you're having one experience, downstairs at Junkanoo is a different experience, and you have that separation. This wouldn't allow for any separation. If you were sitting out on the deck, or upstairs, I would assume if you asked to be seated out there, you would be told, there may be some creeping noise because, the Steelers are playing the whoever, or
Sure.
we've got a band out there playing. How does that I find that difficult.
I actually think it is fairly similar to the Fresh Catch scenario. Most of our seating is actually on the inside of that building.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think we came up with, remember how many seats were out there? About 40 out there?
Less than 40.
Less than 40 out there. So the steakhouse will most likely be only open in the evenings. So you're not gonna have the, I would anticipate more business for the lower level during the day.
Sure.
Into the early evenings, and the steakhouse would probably be 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, maybe a little happy hour there. But also, sunset, you can see a beautiful sunset from up there.
Especially
So-
right now.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that, I understand what you're saying, it's a different vibe and a different, you're not probably gonna wear shorts upstairs and a t-shirt, we don't want that. So it will be differently, a
You do
different,
live on the island.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
but still,
yeah, but-
you're referring to
All
upstairs
shorts up
as
there.
fine dining, and downstairs is have a beer and a
Casual.
sandwich and watch a game.
I'd like to
Uh,
offer something on this
Please.
subject. Because I used to live just a couple blocks from Snook Bite And they had, I forget the name of it before it was Junkanoo's, but there was a
Bay House, yeah.
nice restaurant
Bayfront Bistro.
upstairs.
Yeah.
Bayfront Bistro. And sort of an open bar downstairs. And I went there a lot. I went both to the upstairs and the downstairs, and I never had a conflict. I really enjoyed it.
I-
So,
I'd like you to expand a little bit on the type of live, or not live, the type of entertainment that would be downstairs, because my primary concern beginning was arcade-style gaming, that sort of thing.
Sure.
I understand that none of it's gonna be secure, and with this environment, you're probably not gonna want electronic games down
No.
out in the sea, anyways, but then my mind also goes to, okay, cornhole or bags, or whatever you wanna call it, thump, 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 it's very loud.
Jenga.
Potentially axe throwing, which is incredibly popular, but
Even a pool.
the issue is none of that has been restricted in what's being requested. And I'm trying to get a better definition or an understanding of
I
the
guess I
types
would,
of entertainment that
I
would
would
be
hope that you
offered.
wouldn't restrict us too much on that, but I understand that axe throwing is not part of our thought process. You know, I think, people just want something to do other than maybe just sit in a bar, so, even stuff like they have a little
The
hook,
ring, yep,
you know,
yep.
just little games.
That's nice
that
and quiet.
Yeah, I mean, a little casual.
Well, that's
Um,
exactly what my point is, right, is I'm trying to understand how we can not be too restrictive.
Right.
And yet try to minimize the intrusiveness, nice word.
And I think
Intrusiveness.
part of it's because there's a lot of square foot there.
There
And
is.
we were trying to figure out, you know, what do we do with it,
Yeah.
you know?
More tables.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
yeah, nobody-
honestly, we talked about having, you know, someone that worked for us that got the public involved, and I don't know what the rules are on card games, and, you know, when you live in a country club, they set up, game days, and people come and play bridge, and.
It's a great idea.
You know,
It is.
we'd love to have somebody that's kind of a director that, you know, said,
You
we
could-
wanna be part of the community, we
Bingo.
don't wanna just
Yeah,
trivia, you know, I don't know.
all of which is great, but I mean, seriously, I've had my neighbors play, bags for hours on end, and it's the most
Yeah,
intrusive thing I've
and
ever
we've
heard.
talked about that, I don't even know if the ceiling height is probably even tall enough for that, and I don't like it, so I'd be glad to have you tell us no, and I'm fine with that.
It's just as an example.
You're right, it would be annoying sitting there listening to it.
Jane?
Thump, thump.
As a restaurateur, I just want to understand, why is it that, you know, when you have live music, that you don't play it at a level that people can talk over? Because when I go out to dinner with people, I like to talk to them across the table,
Right.
and when you have it so loud, you can only talk to the person next to you, and that's it, and then you're yelling. So, I don't know why we can't figure out what that level is to make it, I mean, if this is gonna be fine dining upstairs, wouldn't you want it to be something that we can, you know, actually talk to the people we're spending time with?
Yeah, probably to your point, we don't wanna hear that upstairs from, you know, from the lower level. I mean, you're probably right, I mean, it doesn't,
So if you don't wanna hear it, then maybe live entertainment downstairs isn't a good idea.
well,
You know-
I think just like the neighbors don't wanna hear it, we need to control it, we need to probably control the decibels. I don't know anything about what decibel levels are and what's the, but you're right.
Oh, it's a big deal here.
Sure.
I mean, you've made a lot of comparisons to Junkanoo and Fresh Catch, but I've been to Junkanoo quite often. I've never seen live music there.
No.
They're not, I don't think they're allowed, didn't we
Yeah,
restrict
but
that? when
they do well without live
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
It
That
was
bar's
restricted
always
before,
bad.
and it still is, I think.
Yep.
Just to touch upon a few points that were brought up and some of the team's thinking. So one of the things that's been discussed is, and it's been discussed for other projects, and instead of having PA systems for these acts, again, singles and duos, not bands, having a centralized
Integrated.
integrated system with multiple speakers everywhere. I've discussed that with the ownership group. It's definitely something they're planning on doing.
I think that's great.
So that's a way you can control it, you can mitigate it. Also, when we're looking at the configuration of the building, and Don, I appreciate mentioning that we're not trying to design that for you.
I pointed
We,
that out.
but we have looked at different configurations, and we're limited by the 50% rule. And with this 50% rule, if they're gonna do a great job and have a great decor at the steakhouse, they have to be judicious with every dollar spent. So downstairs, have we looked at bifold doors and closing certain areas? Yes, that all comes into play with the 50% rule. It also comes into play of if you enclose things, are you gonna get that airflow? If you don't get the airflow, do you have to air condition? All the challenges associated with that. So that, I've got the easy job here. I don't have to deal with that stuff. Albert has to deal with it. And he's looked at different permutations. And what he's actually working on, he was working on his tablet, looking at how things could be done right now. Similar to what we did for the arches when we did a quick design, we put it up on the screen. If you give us a few minutes, maybe after public comment, Albert's gonna have something that he's jotted down and we can discuss with you.
You could kill all birds with one stone, because now you've got your parking situation resolved too. Okay, we'll give you some time, Patrick. Are there any other questions for Patrick right now?
Well, I can tell you the consideration of having 2 restaurants on the upper floor is not part of that,
No,
that
that's
thought
okay,
process.
that's okay. But that wraparound issue that Don talked about, I think is a great idea. Yeah, anyway, okay. Any other questions for Patrick? You're welcome. It was a good idea.
Once in a while,
Yeah.
somebody.
It was excellent. Any other questions for Pat at this moment? Okay, we'll open up the public comment. Sherry?
Lone Ranger.
I know, I can't believe it.
Neither can I.
I think well,
Sherry, pull that microphone down to you. There you go.
I know, because I'm shrinking. So, I'm Sherry Smith, and I live on Egret Street at 180. I've been there for 35 years, so I've seen a lot go on this property. First, I'd like to mention that the one thing that the theater people did when they came in, we all went, oh my gosh, a theater. Nick Campbell met with all of us. He listened, he consulted the neighborhood. And he had actual meetings, and he worked with us on what we would like to see and what we wouldn't.
Yep.
And I mean, and he became like part of our community.
Sure.
He was so cooperative. And we got notice of this meeting a couple days ago. So it's probably why I'm the only one here. I think cooperation, if you cooperate with the neighborhood, we are residential. We don't want a party in the middle of our residence. Our backyards and everything those are our playgrounds. That's where we have our family out, our picnics, this type of thing. And street parking, we had that with the theater. And you're taking up parking that is meant for the restaurant, and you are using that for other means for the cafe. And we will get maybe parking on our side streets, which is illegal, and we do not want that. Also, just having lived here, I live halfway down Egret Street. I can hear noise when Pinchers was open. We could hear the beat to Pinchers like crazy. So you put any entertainment in there, and we are gonna be affected. We have always been the quiet zone. And I'm just begging, and I think if the theater people would understand what we will support theirs if they are good neighbors to us. But it's a two-way street, and we still don't know about the canal. Are we gonna use the canal? Is that gonna be, are there docks? There's just too many questions, and I think that you really need to talk to the residents about this, because we have heard nothing.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Patrick, do you want a break right now?
Yes, the only thing I might ask is if you have any other thoughts, considerations that we should discuss as a group.
question.
The canal was brought up, though I do want to touch upon that.
Yes, go ahead.
when we met with most of you individually, the question did come up. I think that the thought process was, they're rebuilding the dock, there's gonna be, 3 slips approximately, maybe 4.
Was there a
depending
dock
on the
there
size.
before?
What?
Was there a dock there?
Yeah.
Oh.
Mangroves.
Oh, I thought you said rebuilding the dock. Was there a boat dock?
You are building a
Building-
dock.
You're building a dock,
building
right,
the
okay.
dock right now,
Yeah.
stand corrected.
Right, okay.
So I think the original thought process was, the owners are gonna use one of those spots. There's a few spots available. It won't be advertised in any way. Some of the local neighbors, if they wanted to go, we thought it might be a nice thing. However, the feedback we got was, let's not even go there. So I think the idea is we're gonna have signs, it's gonna be private, it's not gonna be accessible to the public.
Excellent.
Okay.
That will make that neighborhood happy.
You did do, and I just feel compelled to recognize that because there was a lot of emotion and controversy around
Yes.
mangroves. Your project came out extraordinary. I think it's cleaned up a lot of what was left undone before. You can argue about the mangroves versus docks any day you want, but you followed the rules secondarily and got all that done. I think it's a very attractive piece of the end of the canal now, and it's already reduced a lot of the silt and other runoff from the parking lot, just because it's been built by the right way with the right people, with the right team, so well done.
Great. And lastly, on my end, I echo Doug's feelings with regards to what we see at Fresh Catch and Junkanoo's. I think we're trying to emulate something very similar to that. I haven't felt that conflict. I haven't experienced that place getting rowdy. I think we're looking at something very similar to that. I feel very comfortable that this will be much closer to what we're seeing right by the Publix right there, rather than any kind of comparison with
Well,
that.
Patrick, that gives people a sense of ease,
Hmm.
but what you're creating
Yeah.
is a party zone with the TVs, with the games. That's contrary to what is at Junkanoo, right?
Oh,
So,
they've got screens behind the bar.
okay, they have a couple of screens behind the bar. It's a small space.
Yeah.
This is a very big space. You've talked about Jenga, cornhole, the little ring thing, have at it. But anyway, just contemplate it. Let's take, 15 minutes?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay, we're gonna take a
Thank you.
15-minute break. It is 11:08. We'll be back at 11:30.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's 20 minutes. Well, it's a 20-minute break. Yes, we are. Okay, we have reconvened our meeting. Thank you all for the break. Go ahead, Patrick.
Wait, you wanna say he's
All
coming?
right.
Oh, let me just say for the record that Doug Ekman had to leave. He had a hard stop at noon and just felt like it was better for him to go ahead and go.
Great. For the record, Patrick Vaness. So, we've listened to the comments. We got together as a team. We talked about a few things. So let me just highlight a few items, and then I will turn things over to both Albert and to Ken. So we want to highlight that the downstairs, while a casual restaurant, definitely not a sports bar. That's not the way it's going to be marketed whatsoever. There will be sports games and TVs behind the bar. Definitely not marketed as a sports bar. Albert has come up with some design solutions on the fly. And I will let Albert go through what he's proposing on this exhibit, but also he'll talk to you about his design process and some of the things that they've looked into and some of the restrictions associated with both FEMA regulations and also the budget and 50% rule. With regards to the neighbors and accountability, I believe when you met with Steve Bogue, what he told you guys is, I am more than happy to provide my cell phone, you can call me anytime. He will do the same thing with all the neighbors. We talked about him making sure that he knows staff and he knows code enforcement people, and that they have his cell phone number also. And this idea of when they train their staff, they explain that we have to be good neighbors. There was concern about what kind of establishment this would be, clearly defining what their vision is and educating their staff on that. So they are committed to doing that. We talked about these distributed speakers throughout the venue to keep the volume down. That's something they're willing to commit to. We talked about the private docks, making sure that there's some signage there. Those are kept private. We did confirm that there will be no cornhole, because even if you wanted, there is not enough clearing to be able to play cornhole. But some of the other thoughts that they've had, and again, in dealing with a very big space and how do you make it interesting, how do you make it work, they've thought also about a lounge area. So you're there with your friends. If you want to have a more private conversation, a little more mellow, you can maybe go to the lounge area. Albert will talk about that. And then, along the cornhole idea, I think we want to reiterate this is a lot less, active, noisy games, and a lot more like trivia kind of mood that we want to create. And last but not least, what I'd like to leave you with before I turn things over to Albert and Ken is what I'm asking is, and we understand all those concerns and we want to be good neighbors. I'm asking for a little flexibility. So when we're thinking about how we address these issues and how we move things forward, and we'll be having the same conversation with council, is we ask that you give this business a chance to get off the ground, be successful, and have some flexibility. We believe there are multiple solutions. We just talked about some. We think a lot of it can be addressed through design. But that flexibility to give them a chance to get off the ground, to be successful, to really get their bearings in the first year. So when we talk about something like potential, the window of potential live music, it's a window. I think we all understand that there's not necessarily going to be music every single day. There will be more in season than off season. We all understand that. And weekends will probably have a little more, but this is a window. And I think, again, within their first year, they're going to see how successful they are, what people are expecting, and they'll make adjustments along the way. So what I'm asking is, let's not put too many handcuffs on them that will make it more challenging for them. I'm asking for a little flexibility, a little grace towards the owners to give them a chance. So with that said, I'll turn things over to Albert, and he can talk about design solutions.
Hi, Albert.
Still good morning. Good morning. Albert D'Ambrose, Studio AD architect for the record. Just a little background on how we got to where we are. Obviously, the building was built in 1999. At that time, the flood maps, this was an A zone. It's been an A zone all the way up until the flood maps changed in November 22 after Hurricane Ian. A sliver of the front building that's on the stereo turned into a red, purple zone, which is for us is a velocity in the flood zone maps. But the way the building codes and regulations work, as long as we're not exceeding 50% of the building value, then we don't have to make any compliance in new code. And then common sense always tells us when you go over 50%, it's a tear down basically. So the goal is always keep it in safe building. This building is a very strong building. There's concrete piles, concrete walls, giant concrete beams, which hang low. If you've been there, this is why we're just saying that you can't play cornhole there. The beams are so low, you're not gonna be able to get the distance. I've done it. I throw more low, some people throw high, it's gonna ruin everyone's game. So that's not something we're looking at eventually to do. So what I come up with a sketch to go back to the 50% rule and everything. When we first started this project, we actually did consider enclosing an entire ground floor with glass doors and windows. The cost of the glass with being impact, because even though it's depending on how you design it, I still got to design for wind loads, and that's impact glass. So that's a lot of glass impact protection and all that stuff. So that also takes away with having an open environment. So as this project evolved, we moved into more or less where can we put things that act as buffers. So back in the egress stair in the upper left-hand corner of that plan, to the right of you have the bathrooms, you have a back of house service, that added more buffer to that sound, that back area. We added a solid concrete block wall, and since this is a dry flood-proof corner of the building that we're putting the bathrooms on the ground floor, which we're allowed to do in the coastal A, that means those walls are actually not filled cell every so often. It's pretty much a solid concrete block wall. Normal construction block walls, like every 4 feet, there's a vertical fill cell, in between it's hollow. Sound actually can go through hollow blocks easily, especially different volumes and decibels and frequencies. So that wall, because dry and flood proof, is a solid concrete block wall. It's a concrete block where every cell is filled solid. So as sound, the only thing that stops sound is really like mass in walls. What we were proposing to do in our sketch here, you see here, and if I have a little liberty, since the laser pointer doesn't point to here, I feel like Phil Donahue here now. Well, sure, I'm that area too. I watched him.
I loved Phil Donahue.
Yes, but he had a bigger mic than this one.
He had that long, skinny one.
Yes, exactly. Or Price is Right. Anyway, so we had a solid wall. Right now, this is a solid wall right here for the stairway for egress from the second floor. We added this one. We added this one for the dumbwaiter for service. What we're proposing to do is increase that solid concrete block wall all the way here to the next concrete column. On this side here, we need to get egress out of this portion of the building, but we don't want to enclose this to look like a dark cave. So what we're proposing to do is make this a series of storefront doors that's being used for egress only. So that would be a glass door with a panic hardware. So being assembly occupancy, we need to have that. Have a little bit of glass that's impact glass. And nowadays, impact glass is not like the old glass where you sneeze and shakes. This you sneeze, it's nothing going to happen. This is solid, so it's going to block a lot of sound, basically. So that's only going to be used as egress. This wall right here is already solid. This stair is concrete, solid concrete stairs. That is your elevator going to the second floor. What we're asking is that we can go ahead and increase that solid wall here to prevent any noise from going into the residential section even further. We also talked about, we had nano doors, which are these bifold doors. So the old cottage, when we did the renovations back then, we had all those nano doors where all the railings were at. They're just bifold glass doors. They're impact glass doors as well too. What that will allow them to do on this side here, and I'm not proposing everywhere else, is because we still want to have the cross ventilation going through to keep this environment as an open outdoor area. But this allows them to close it. So if the noise gets to a certain point, we can close it. They can open it if it's not a loud event. You know, so how they manage their business, they can help them, gives them that flexibility to open and close that thing. So they're willing to go ahead and add these glass doors here and here. I mean, that section in glass doors, that's a pretty huge commitment as well to the cost. That still will keep us below the 50% as well too. Obviously in storm events, we keep those all open. We wouldn't close them, so they won't get damaged as much as what they would. The purple line I'm proposing, there's a little highlight here, was a comment that came up, forgot who asked for, about how do you control people leaving with a drink. There's also the dine and dash thing as well too. So one of the things we'll also talked about before was not just landscaping, but we can put a railing all around this edge here so that no one can leave that way, no one can enter that way.
That's good.
The forced entry and exit is coming through here. And also, when we were talking inside, it helps with management of the place. You have a controlled egress and egress, the main entry. And then, of course, you know, you can still maneuver it back and forth. We would still add some landscaping around the perimeter because we still have development order things we have to comply with. There's original landscape that was there. The place is kind of barren now because of all the lost damage and vegetation. So landscaping can also be brought back up. We can also update the rendering to reflect that as well too. But that's kind of the concept as far as helping to minimize the spread of sounds. Also, we've been working this project for a while now, and we've actually submitted for a development order, I think about a week and a half ago. We've been working on construction documents, so we're basically 50% done. What we're at right now is at the interior design level phase. Sound is an issue, of course, because it's a concrete floor, it's a concrete floor system above. We're not leaving it like that. We are not putting a system like this, but we are going to put an acoustical systems in there because you cannot communicate in there. Like, we can hear each other clearly here because there's no reverberation of the sound. But with the concrete, you won't be able to hear each other. It'll be a 3-second delay before you acknowledge what someone sees. So for the enjoyment of the space, for the successful of the business to succeed there, we have to put acoustic panels. But also, we're trying to dress up that ceiling as well too, because we have to install turtle compliant lights, sprinkler heads. We have to modify certain things. We're trying to hide the plumbing traps from below. If you go there, you'll see all those things hanging out. That's not appealing for a business. So there's a layer of finishes that are going to be coming in to help minimize sound bouncing off all over the place. We're looking to, again, like I said, add additional solid walls to help mitigate that process.
You instill such confidence in me.
I try.
You do a darn good job.
I'm so happy with my team.
Hey, you be quiet. Now, I had the opportunity to spend some time with Albert the other day where we got to really meet each other, and I'm just terribly impressed with you.
I think terribly is a positive word, though.
It is a very positive word, Albert.
Just other thing too about the purple area too. That's evolved. It was never ever going to be a sports bar. This was not going to be the home of the Iowa football game club or anything like that nature. This was another area of different type of seating. So where I'm just talking to Ken about being up in Ohio this past week. My wife's side of the family's from there, and a lot of the wineries and stuff of that nature. A lot of trivia, different seating. Connect Four for the kids. A couple games and just for the kids that can occupy where adults are doing things. This could be a place that has that opportunity to allow that space. It also is an opportunity that we can put a screen on one of those walls and have the kids have movies projected on that wall on the ground floor while the adults are doing adult things in the front half. They're in the back half, they're close to the bathrooms, they're in the quiet zone, they're in the safe zone. They're not going to escape because that panic hardware is going to be alarmed. So that's the warning that says only press for emergency. So these are things that we've discussed internally. We're getting to that point in finishes, but we feel we're going to definitely take care of all the concerns and not, make any conditions worse.
So now I'm going to take away my scrambled merchandising theory because now that makes sense to me. That's your same customer. That's your same customer, it's just on a different day. That's your high-end steakhouse family. Now they're bringing the family in, and it makes more sense to me.
And the rendering, the deck that's outside, and if you're looking at here, you'll see the rectangle columns on the bottom portion of the screen there. That is all be proposed to be a concrete slab, so it's not a deck. So it's not where you're standing there and have Trex boarding and looking down. That's going to be a waterproof, solid concrete poured deck. So when you're sitting up there, the sound's going to be a lot more reduced as if it were an open deck, like a dock, basically. So that's all meant to be more resilient. We don't want anything wood, honestly. I'm anti-wood on all these things. It's all concrete. That's resilient. The above structure is all aluminum. It's all powder-coated aluminum. There's all these prefabricated structures for all the outdoor decks.
What do you two think that live on that street with these changes? Jim?
Congratulations, and I say that back to my culture comment because you're listening, you're responding, you're being creative, attentive, unemotional, the things that we like working together in this community with folks like that. I think this made great progress. For me on the street, literally the closest house, we've waited a long time for this to come alive. This building's important to our neighborhood because it exists already. And sitting there empty is a whole different statement than what you're proposing today. I like the changes you made. I agree with the individual with the comments about community conversation. I've spoken to this team a couple times personally that so many things could be resolved by just having some time together and buying some popcorn and talking to each other about our concerns. But we're doing it now, and this is a reality we have to deal with, and getting the best out of this we can. I think you made a lot of progress.
What about you, John?
So, excuse me, I agree with almost everything that was said. I do have a question. Was, at any point in time, was that second story thought to be something that would be developed and something that could be the mezzanine level I'm talking about?
Unfortunately, no, we have limitations to that. So it was decided, one of the original ideas, and we're talking about the mezzanine where all the projector films were.
Yeah.
Back in the day, of course, that's where the film projectors were. There's a couple mechanical rooms, there's an elevated equipment room, so it's not an aesthetically pleasing space. One of the ideas the owner asked if we could put a private dining room up there. Problem, we can't. The elevator only goes up to the second floor.
That's what I
So
thought.
you open you up to liability for accessibilities,
That
so for
was my
ADA
original
access.
question
Yep.
about the elevator going to the mezzanine. I thought
Seen
it was-
plenty of
Oh,
war
yeah,
stories
that
where people
makes
try to
sense, yeah.
even do that. It's just not
Okay,
advisable to
that's
do
fine.
that.
That's what I suspected.
So that's why it's become more of a dry storage and office area, and it's actually going to be a lot of mechanical systems for the restaurant spaces, like HVAC. We have a lot of the fresh outdoor air makeup systems. So that room's going to be chopped down to a small spot. That's going to be maybe a desk, honestly, up there.
Yeah. No, I understand now. I suspected that the elevator was partially the issue, but it makes sense.
It also helps as well as from when we design these buildings, we're designing it to be really built to this day. So I got to comply with building code and fire code. So the more people I add, the more exits I got to have. The more people are going on the third floor, the elevator's going to add. It starts compounding essentially. So what we propose is that floor just stays as the empty storage room.
That makes perfect sense to me now, and I appreciate that explanation because it wasn't clear before.
John, how about the changes to improve sound traffic?
So I'd like to make a comment first. Number one, I applaud the owners for working with yourself and the neighborhood group, having local representation that understands the needs, desires, the culture of this island. I would also, though, say that there's been a huge missed opportunity in outreach to the neighborhood, the community, for, I will say, months and years now, even to the point of our council members trying to reach out and get updates to what was going on with this property and the properties that are associated with the ownership. And there's been very little communication. And that's concerning only because there was a request that Patrick made that said, give us some grace. And that to me is trust us.
Yeah.
And that trust factor is, in my mind, something that is built over time. It's not something that at a point in time you say, don't worry about our past behavior. We are now working under a new metric or a new, and I truly want to believe that, and I think by hiring both of your firms, that goes to a recognition that perhaps that's important. But what it does to me is it makes me want to be restrictive to ensure that whatever is permitted is controlled, so that it doesn't run away. And I understand what we have in front of us is an agreement that sets sort of the framework and the boundaries in which to work beyond, but I'm less permissive than I would be if I had that feeling of engagement all along. So for that reason, I do applaud the changes that you're making. I think they reduce the impact on the neighbors, the walls, the landscaping, the railing around, all of which I think are very, very positive, and I think they do help the project. The stated intention of not a sports bar, while admirable, is a stated intention. The fact that the ceiling is too low to play cornhole doesn't preclude some other game like that, right? So those are the things that I'm struggling with right now. And we haven't even got to the parking, but that's another issue, right? So I see the changes that you've made. I see the applicant's willingness to at least work with local experts and understand the needs, desires of the community. It's all positive. The concept as it's been described, I like it. I'm hesitant to just take your word, not your word, please. I want to be very clear about that.
No, I understand, and I think as this project evolved, the owners have realized a lot more about open communication in the community.
Yeah.
I as well, definitely as well, throughout all these projects we work on. So moving forward, I do believe you're gonna have their commitment to reach out. And I know there's a level of trust that goes in, and I do appreciate your compliments to myself and Patrick and our team put together, as well as Stevens Construction as well, who's a local contractor who's already building Beach Bar. All of us together as a team, that we fill out the owner, the design professionals, and the contractor make up the perfect team to basically implement. So I understand the intent and your concern, and for my world, the word intent is very important. The intent of what you're saying, you and I had a discussion the other day, was the intent of codes and the intent of your concern is that we understand noise is of a concern. So the last thing we'd want to do is advise them if they come to us and say, we need power here for all these, big giant gadget video game machines. We're obviously going to tell them that's not going to work. It's obviously built into the documents and all that nature. But as well as we continuously advise our clients as to what's been heard.
To see the team that has been put around you, I guess I would say.
It is, yeah. Jim, are you still?
I'd like to just quickly address John's comments, and John, I'll take part of the blame for the communication. Our clients come to us and ask for direction and guidance. In this case, we've got an ownership group, and I think just for them to work out exactly what they wanted to do took a while. And I think, at least personally, I saw this as a much smaller project than other projects. And I think part of it is this idea that we're communicating with folks like you, the LPA council, which kind of act as a proxy to the public. But point well taken, I probably did not provide enough guidance to my client to really emphasize that they need to reach out to the neighborhood. We've heard it loud and clear, we understand that. And the good thing is, we've got two local folks that are very willing to engage their neighbors, so I'll take part of the blame for that.
Well, just remedy it.
Yep.
I mean, we don't need blame, it just, because it is that trust thing.
And I think that's it, they just didn't fully understand that.
Yeah. Jim, questions? How do you feel about this? Does it address your?
Sorry, just one last thing I forgot to say
No,
earlier,
please.
but to follow up on that whole trust thing as well too. Trust me and Patrick to advise them appropriately as well too, because I don't know how long it's been now, a couple months now, the Women's Club had the event there. Stephen Carr reached out to me and just in casual conversation said, this Women's Club approached us, they want to have an event here. They asked for my opinion, and I said, absolutely. If you're ready to reveal this, you need to start doing that communication with them. And that's the first person that approached you, so definitely reciprocate back and invite them. And it wasn't just us, it was also Patrick, and then the event took place. So we are been advising them to do this more, and we will continuously continue to do that more. And as well, honestly, we're honest as an architect, we're still involved with the project post-construction, honestly. Because we like to know what works, what doesn't work, warranties, all those things. So obviously you have our commitment to make sure that all these things that we're saying will be implemented in those designs.
Jim, Albert, stay for a minute, will you? How do you feel about the railing? Does that
Well,
satisfy that concern?
My question, Judith, is how do we incorporate that into the a proposed ordinance?
So what I would ask them to do is before they go to council to include it on their site plan, on the master concept plan, and I think that would solve for that. And I would like to see, just maybe a dashed line just denoting where you're planning to put it. and how high it is. I imagine 4 feet would probably be sufficient.
Yeah, we'll formalize that. We'll also update the render as well too.
Yeah, because the thing is, we need to look at with the master con, make sure it's not in the, the visibility triangle. You've got a cutout here, so it's probably impacting the corner, but that's what we'll look for in the master concept. But I think that that's doable. And it's easier to do that on the master concept plan, and then we just refer to that, when they come in for their development order. And landscaping, if you're gonna add, a 4-foot hedge to match the railing, show it on the MCP.
And then, I guess my question is to Jim and John, if your level of comfort, needs to be solidified, whether, some sort of subject to a review after a year or something would be something that would raise your comfort level.
For me personally,
From an operational
I would rather it be codified in advance as opposed to checked and audited afterwards. So I would say that I would look to tighten up some of the times of live entertainment, for example, the electronic noise or what have you. I would like to expand some of the restriction on the live entertainment uses, something that would, excuse me, that is, ahead of the train as
Yes,
opposed to following it.
Yes, because the onus will lie on you to complain, yeah.
And I guess I would add to John's comment, and Jim, your question. There's a moment here where the trust flows to us. And what I mean by that is we put some restrictions around the hours that the entertainment can exist. They find as operators that both competitively and opportunity-wise, they need more than that. I would hope, and I know Chair, you said this, that we're pretty good on the special exception kind of things, and we are, because we like a party around here, and we know when they are. I hope we're also as good and receptive when they came and say, we need 2 more hours, and look
Yes.
how kind of neighbors we've been. And we're gonna continue to control the exact same
I
way, and
agree
like your
completely.
support.
Yep.
And I, for one,
Yep.
would be all over
Yes.
leaning that direction
Yep.
and helping to influence my peers.
100% agree.
Yeah, me
It's a
too.
little bit here, a little bit there,
Me
it's
too.
a give and take.
Then we get it down, we get it up,
Yes.
get it
Yes.
going, and we're good neighbors
Yes,
also.
and it adds a sense of security to the people who are
Yes.
around. Jane, did you have anything?
No, not.
Don, any follow-up?
Again, I applaud the efforts. I love the impromptu changes. I like the extra wall. I have to tell you that if I was a neighbor around there, I would say, great that we're putting the glass in, great that we're putting those doors in, but you want airflow, they're gonna be open. And then if a neighbor across the street there calls the general manager and says, hey, there's a lot of noise here, is there any way we can close those? Nah, it's too hot, or whatever. It's not a permanent end-all be-all. Again, I appreciate the effort, definitely appreciate the short fence around it, and so, yeah, I'm still struggling with this one.
Okay.
And I mean, for the next special exception as well.
Okay. Okay. All right. Where are we? Okay. Any other questions? Patrick, do you have anything you want to finalize, or Ken, anything? No? Okay. Judith?
Yeah, so if you don't mind, if you're approaching the time where you're gonna make a motion to run through the conditions to make sure that we have those as.
Let's talk about them, because I think some of them are going to be modified.
Okay.
Okay?
So, and then, the conditions of approval would go with all 4 elements of the special exception. You could approve or deny any of the 4, but it would be contained in all that you approve would be
Correct.
contained within one resolution, so the conditions follow all of the,
Okay.
special exceptions. So, the first condition, all music and entertainment on the property will be in compliance with the town's noise regulations. They had no concern about that. 2 hours of amplified music will be limited from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays and 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. on weekends, which
Let's
is what
stop
we
there.
had.
Okay. And thoughts?
Didn't we restrict amplified before? I thought we did on another project.
We did?
Yeah.
It became ambient?
Yeah, ambient.
I think there was a problem with the definition, and that ambient was actually just background noise as
Yeah.
opposed to
Yeah,
what we
supposed to light it
believe
up.
it is.
So is it
So-
non-amplified then? I mean, you're talking
Well,
about
it's
putting.
going through the speakers, so if you count their approach about putting it throughout the entire organization, where they control the volume, the central system, I thought was a good compromise.
But not codified yet.
Absolutely, great, it's not in the document, it's just an offer, but
So
I
does
thought that
mean-
was how I saw it was mitigated.
So does that mean they wouldn't use an amp? Because an amp would still amplify even if they were using
I think the
speakers.
difference, Don, is as opposed to having a musician with an amplifier or a couple of
Sound system is
stand
different,
speakers
yeah.
or what have you, you've actually got it installed into the facility, and therefore it's controlled by them, and it's, instead of just being broadcast
Right.
from two
Great.
places, it's everywhere. So I would agree with that. I think these hours, personally, I'm fine with them. They're not what the applicant requested, but I think these ones are fine.
You're talking about the ones staff recommended.
The
11
staff
to
recommendation
9
in the
weekdays,
conditions.
11 to 10 weekends. So should the beginning of this approval say, all amplified music will be
Controlled via
controlled by an
on-site system.
integrated system?
Yeah, integrated.
Yep.
Yeah, building integrated
Right,
system.
and now.
You know where we're going there?
Mhm.
So all amplified music throughout the building will be controlled by a system integrated within the building, and the hours of amplified music will be limited to blah, blah, blah.
Is this
And-
where we cover the single duo or no?
Yeah, we should probably include that too.
And should be limited to,
Solos and duos.
yes. We could just say no more than 2 performers. or
And drums not permitted.
And drums not permitted. Okay? Does that encapsulate all the sound concerns? Okay? Steel drums, what the H? Steel drums. Maybe. We'll work from there. Okay, next one, Judith. No consumption of alcohol shall be permitted outside the entertainment and seating area as depicted on the plan. Let's say, can we say as depicted on the plan
Revised.
modified by Albert Dambrose in the course of the meeting? Because now you've got it, you're really not supposed to come
Yeah,
up here,
I mean-
you know that, but go ahead.
Sorry, so,
Go
I
ahead,
just,
Patrick.
if I'm gonna say what he's gonna say, so the language change suggestion that Pat brought up during his presentation,
Uh-huh.
I don't have a problem with this. It's just to clarify, you're not gonna be able to drink in the parking lot, right? So we're gonna, the entertainment area,
We're outside the fence.
So, Ms. Chair, just, given that we don't have an attorney today, we do reserve the right to rebut and
course.
address some issues. But this issue, we are gonna have, by the time we get to council, I think you can have your condition per the plan, and our commitment is that we will revise the plan according to what you're seeing there.
Perfect.
So we don't need the extra language.
Bravo, 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 bravo. Okay. So the next one is about games. Games in the, maybe it doesn't say entertainment, maybe the word's lounge, because I liked the way that Albert explained it as the lounge
we
area.
could just say the ground level, I mean, and that covers everything. I mean, if
Okay.
their intent is not to have pinball and
Right.
video games, then it doesn't,
Okay.
okay, so we just say the
Cannot
ground.
include loud electronic beeping, ringing, or buzzing, or thumping. maybe.
I don't know how to handle that one, honestly.
Can we put thumping in? Because wouldn't you call that a
Sure.
thump? Okay.
I don't.
No
Those
whack-a-mole.
dance games.
Okay, so the next one is the development must comply with LDCC turtle conservation requirements. That's,
Yeah, so that would include lighting requirements
course.
and all of that, yeah.
Redevelopment of the dock must receive an approval LDO or DO as determined by the Community Development Department and will be for private use only. That's, yep.
Mhm.
The dumpster enclosure shall be refurbished in coordination with the solid waste carrier to allow closure of the doors. Solid waste pickup shall be provided 6 days a week excluding Sundays. No objections there?
Nope, Waste Management agreed with all that, put it in writing.
Any violations of the approval shall render the special exception null and void.
Patrick had language, he wanted there then.
If not remedy.
It's not
Oh,
ready.
that's right. If not,
Any remedy violation.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem
Okay.
with that.
Violation.
I did want to note, I mean, this proposed version, they will need to resubmit to staff prior to town council. I'll have our floodplain reviewer take a look at it, just to make sure that, you know, our regulation is on the same page as what Albert presented.
Patrick, can you come back up for a second? Were you planning on being at the next town council meeting?
Yes.
So will you have time to accomplish that?
No, I think we're after the break.
In
After the July
You're
break
after the
in
break
August.
in August,
Yeah, so
okay.
we will have time.
And that's okay?
Yes, we will have
Okay.
time.
Doesn't disturb your timeline? Okay, wonderful.
And I trust Albert's got some better software than all these scribbles. He can put this all in there for me.
Okay, wonderful.
Did we fix,
Anything else, or did we fix what?
did we fix number 6, redevelopment of the dock?
Must receive that it is only for private use?
Private use.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yes.
And it's development of the dock, right? It's not redevelopment.
That's correct. It is development, not redevelopment.
And that's, except for landscaping, et cetera, it's done anyway.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, the dock's done?
It's
Yeah,
done.
it's
Oh,
done.
is it? I mean,
Yeah, it's completely done.
Okay.
But
Didn't
do
know
wanna
that.
add restricted to private.
It does.
Restricted,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
John, is that your canal? Is that the canal?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else, Judith? Nope. Okay. What other discussion do we have? Anything?
Good progress in my mind.
If not, would someone like to make a motion?
I would do that. I don't have the material sitting in front of me.
Do you want them to
Do you have anything with that?
special exception section?
Oh, yeah, here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to do that.
So I think we'd like you to ask if you would make a motion for each individual.
Yes, for each
separate-
individual one. Do you want the conditions? If you can read my scribbles?
You want the motion to capture these or read every single one?
No, I mean, I think we went through it and we have it for the record, but there's four
each
special
special
exceptions that we
exception.
should take
We need a
make a
motion
motion
for it.
and then vote. each
You have a
one
list of the
individually.
special exceptions, Jim?
Consumption on premises and all that?
Yeah.
Oh, here.
There's
Here
the
there.
special exceptions.
And it's based on competent substantial evidence that you have heard
That's
presented
right.
to you today,
That's right.
that is in the records.
He's taking control.
All right, so I would make a motion for approval of SCZ 202 50046 6425 Estero Boulevard, better known as the Beach Theater. There are 4 special exceptions that I'll call out as part of my motion for approval. Number 1 is consumption on
No,
premises.
wait,
You
Jim,
gotta
what
do
she's
it.
saying is she wants a motion for not the
Oh,
whole
gotcha.
SEZ, a motion for each one of those special
All right,
exceptions.
so instead of the CBD itself, okay. Then I'll revise my motion to start over. I make a motion to approve the following special exception. Number 1, LDC section 34-1264A2A dot, which relates to consumption on premises at the Beach Theater property.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, your vote, Jim?
Aye?
Jim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve special exception number 2, LCD section 34-703, small b, 1, which is new outdoor entertainment and commercial boulevard CB zoning district.
I'll second that.
Is that where we have the sound, or is that the next one?
Live entertainment is the next one. No,
Okay.
it's the new
No, this is number two.
This is number 2, yeah.
This
That's
is
right.
the outdoor.
Yeah,
This is
I gave
outdoor,
away
bottom and
my
top.
stuff.
yeah, it says new live and new outdoor.
Okay.
No, I need my other ones.
Live could be upstairs as well, Don.
Live is upstairs. So we're allowing, this is just for the allowance
Exactly.
Of entertainment.
Yeah.
of the entertainment.
We haven't
Okay.
captured the conditions.
Okay, so there's a motion for that. Is there a
I
second?
second it.
Jane,
Okay,
second.
there's a motion and a second. Discussion on that. Your vote, Jim?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
John?
Nay.
Aye.
Thank you. Move approval for special exception number 3, LDC section 34-703, small b2, new live entertainment within the CB zoning district. Subject to
Subject to.
the conditions of approval which staff has captured and will be attached as part of the motion.
Is that adequate? Reflecting the hours and everything else?
Yeah,
Right.
just to be clear, we're gonna attach the conditions to all
Every one
four.
of them?
Yeah.
Excellent,
Oh, okay.
excellent. Okay.
Okay, so that's a motion.
Second? I'll second. Discussion? Hearing none, your vote, Jim?
Yes?
I'm a yes. Don?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Finally, a motion for approval of special exception number 4, LDC section 34-703, small b3, new outdoor seating open after sunset in CB zoning district.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? Your vote, Jim?
Aye.
John? Or, I'm sorry, Jim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so all but one passes. No, all of them pass.
They all
All of them
pass.
pass. The
One
one is not
One.
unanimously. Okay. All right. So now the SEZ 202-50046 doesn't need a motion?
No.
Okay, because we just did all of them individually. Okay, excellent. All right. Next up.
What we will do moving forward is we will take that number and assign it and.
To each one of them.
Right,
Oh, good.
like an
Perfect.
A, B,
Yep.
C, D.
Great. Okay, and thank you all so much for all of the clarifications you made, that was
And the
excellent.
compromise.
And the compromises. Next item, VAR 202-50047, 6425 Estero Boulevard Beach Theater. A resolution of the Fort Myers Beach Local Planning Agency approving with conditions or denying variance application VAR 202-50047 for the property located at 6425 Estero Boulevard, generally identified as strap number 344624 W4 in Fort Myers Beach for a variance decrease the number of required parking spaces from 115 to 33 parking spaces and a bicycle rack for a restaurant, cocktail bar, and entertainment area, providing for Scrivener's error, severability, providing for an effective date. Okay, Judith.
Judith Frankel with Community Development. Again, I wanted to note that there is an error in the resolution which calls the property in the Boulevard future land use category, and we're gonna correct that to reflect the mixed residential.
Mixed-use residential.
Future land use category. The property owner, Estero 4148 LLC, and their agent, the neighborhood company, are requesting a variance from Land Development Code Section 34-2020 for the property at 6425 Estero Boulevard. There are 3 portions of that section that require variances as part of this request. So section 34-2020 B2 requires that new uses in a building must provide code required parking. This is something that not all communities do and is something that, you know, we may consider altering when we get to our land development code rewriting. Typically, if a property is being redeveloped, they don't have the ability of adding new parking to a specific site. So this requirement can be difficult when we're seeing a redevelopment. In this case, it is, while being a new use, they're also utilizing more square footage for that new uses on the property. So they're decreasing the amount of parking that was there previous. So they're increasing the square footage being used for commercial purposes and decreasing the available parking. Section 34-2020 D2H requires restaurants to provide 8 spaces per 1,000 square feet of total floor area plus outdoor seating. So there's more outdoor seating. I don't think there was any outdoor seating previously, so it's a new use. Our code looks at total square footage when calculating parking. There's other ways to do that. What you'll see in the narrative that the applicant proposed is when looking at the actual floor area, because it's a pretty large building, the expected amount of parking is quite large. And what they did, they provided a second table where they excluded a lot of the storage and hallways and kind of other portions of the building that are not really being used for the restaurant, and gave you a smaller number that would be, you know, probably more in line with what would be expected for the property. Section 34-2020 D2H2 requires bars to provide 8 spaces per 1,000 square feet of total floor area, plus 5 additional spaces per 1,000 square feet of floor area used for the bar, plus outdoor seating. So because there's a restaurant and a bar, it's additional seating that the code, additional parking that the code requires. The applicant is proposing to provide 33 automobile parking spaces, 2 bicycle racks, and 4 golf cart parking spaces. Where in that second table that you saw, they've calculated 115 parking spaces. Our code does not give any kind of credit for golf cart parking, so we have not discounted that, and we only give a credit for 1 bicycle rack that accommodates at least 4 bicycles. The parking lot adjacent to the building is existing and would not be possible to add parking spaces to that parking lot without a substantial cost. However, the conditions justifying the variances are the result of actions taken by the applicant, as the building previously had parking spaces on the ground floor under the building. The proposed new use of outdoor entertainment and bar will occupy the previous parking area. The lack of parking on site may be injurious to the neighborhood, as it may result in people parking where they are not allowed, specifically on Curlew Street or Egret Street, or in the condominium parking lots on the opposite side of Estero. Staff recognizes that the parking code is in need of updating. However, the reduction requested may be more than what is appropriate without some mitigation, such as valet parking. The 3 variances from section 34-2020 for a reduction in the number of required parking spaces does not meet the criteria found in section 34-67. That's where we're asking if there is any injurious impact to the surrounding neighborhood. And staff recommends denial of this request. If the LPA seeks to recommend approval of the variance, the conditions of approval for this variance are the same as what you saw for the special exception, so we could make the same edits that we did to the conditions of the special exception to the variance. And that's just to make it crystal clear.
Yes. Okay. Questions for Judith, Jim?
I have one. I think I know the answer to this, but just to get you to answer and go on the record, because we talk about parking a lot. As you look through the lens of your responsibilities here into the code doesn't allow or take in consideration any sort of public transport access. There's a stop right in front of this where additional parking is not necessary because they are so close. Nothing's in there about that, right?
The land development code does not. The comprehensive plan does look a little bit more holistically at what's available, and I imagine the applicant is going to present
Sure.
that to you as well, but the code does not. The
Okay.
code is very prescriptive.
Nor can it anticipate or allow flexibility from your perspective for the fully set up and anticipated walk-ins that are gonna be casual and frequent. A fairly large part of this, I think, to go by. You still put a chair there, and a certain number of chairs, a certain amount of space, parking's required, period.
Yeah, so it's not by chair. Some codes do that. It's the number of
Space.
seats. It's by square footage.
It's being used for chairs and tables.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
Well, it specifically says total area. So one of the things that you'll notice in the table is that entertainment area, we've allocated 0 parking spaces
that,
for.
yeah, right.
Because it's ancillary. You're coming there, you're not gonna come just to play, not cornhole, but something else. You're gonna come there to
But if
to
they
eat
put
food
chairs
or
there,
whatever.
you would count it.
Then we would count it. So
So
that's what we asked them on the master concept
point
plan
out.
to denote exactly what it's gonna
Thank you.
be.
That's all I have.
Okay,
Chair.
thank you. Any other questions for Judith?
Not at this time, thank you.
Don, nothing? You talked about parking all day, okay. All right.
I don't have any, yeah, I mean,
All
I
right.
don't know what to ask.
Okay.
Case concluded.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Judith. Patrick,
Wish I could find it.
Okay, I hope you have your magic wand.
Good afternoon, I believe. You know what, I've already told you how I feel today, so.
You should feel good now.
Change it.
We don't care.
You're frustrated, stay there.
If I can get the PowerPoint on, that would be great. And we'll have this up and running shortly. But let me get started before the PowerPoint comes on. We're gonna jump straight to the variance request. I'm not gonna reiterate all the other things that we've already discussed. But I really wanna highlight some of the comments from Corey that were made previously. We completely believe that there are a lot of people, a lot of units, a lot of rooftops in a very close vicinity, and that is a very highly walkable, bikeable area. And there's already a lot of foot traffic that currently exists. We think that, you know, and they looked at this from a business standpoint, from the get-go of, does this make sense? Do we have the people? Do we have the units? They feel comfortable with that. And they made that decision of providing 2 different types of restaurants, understanding that they were limiting their parking, but also understanding that it is very walkable. We, as a town, are pushing hard to promote alternative modes. We do have a transit stop right in front. And we're seeing improvements with water taxis, for example, every day. So I think as a community, we've gone further than we have before. We're seeing a lot of electric bike use, scooters, these alternative modes, golf carts. So I think from that standpoint, big picture, that does provide a lot of parking mitigation. But we do have some solutions. And again, that's when we met with each of you individually. We will go through those various solutions. We don't know exactly which one is best right now. We'd like a little time to get that figured out, and we're happy to have that discussion. But before I jump into that, I do want to talk about the LDC criteria for variances, and just put that on the record real quick, okay? So the first one is whether there are exceptional or extraordinary conditions or circumstances inherent to the property, or conditions where rigid compliance is not necessary to protect the public policy. Again, I will keep highlighting that until we change our code. These are or statements, you don't have to meet every single one of them. But we do believe that rigid compliance would not serve the public. I think the project they are proposing is a great project with 2 much needed restaurant venues on the south end. We did go through a hurricane, multiple hurricanes. There are extraordinary conditions, and also we are retrofitting an existing building again. Extraordinary conditions. Number 2, exceptional or extraordinary conditions that are not a result of the actions of the applicant. There are multiple ways to look at that. You can look at it for the choices that they are bringing forward with the 2 restaurants. We believe that is a benefit. It is desired. It's something that the town wants to see. However, is it their choice that they're limited to an existing building and existing property? No, it isn't. So is the variance minimum? I would say it's minimum to allow those 2 restaurants. Whether granting the variance will be injurious to the neighborhood. We've talked about this at length with the special exception. We believe that the mitigation that we're putting in place, buffering, physical design barriers, operational limitations, will create the required compatibility. And lastly, is the variance so general in nature that this should be dealt with a change to the land development code instead of a variance? No, this is very unique to this property, so that's why we're here today. So we'll jump into the actual parking variance. Also want to reiterate that we are asking variance from 3 code sections, but it's all one request to reduce parking. So as we've discussed on multiple cases, our code needs to be updated, especially with, you know, I think a lot of codes throughout the country need to be updated to look at parking and transportation patterns that exist today. But even more so on a small barrier island with a lot of visitors from out of town. I think we really need to study our code when it comes to parking and make some serious adjustments. We think that in most cases, for most uses, we are way over parked. Also, as staff clarified, the way we assign parking for commercial uses and restaurants is not based on seating, it is based on gross square footage, and we also double count for bar areas within a restaurant. With that said, we think that should be changed. We think that the code required amount of parking, what's identified on your slide is 172 spaces. We think this is far greater than what is needed. So what we did in your packet and the narrative was kind of explain of we are retrofitting a theater, a very large space. There's a lot of what I call core space, wide corridors, huge kitchen area, mezzanine for the projection room that'll be storage. So those are not going to contribute towards the parking needs of the facility. So what we did is, and we created, I thought I had another table that reduces the square footage associated with some of the restaurant uses. And in using this table, we would be looking at a requirement of 115 spaces. We are asking for a 70% reduction from that requirement. We acknowledge that, we understand that. So let me jump straight to some of the potential solutions. So first thing I want to explain to you is that Corey and Steve are part of an investment group that owns the theater property. They are the local guys. Some of their other partners visit or spend quite a bit of time here, but they're the boots on the ground that'll be here on a regular basis. But they also have two other investment groups that have purchased the Dolphin Inn next door and have purchased Gulfview Manor. Some of the same members are part of these groups, but they are distinct, different LLCs with some variance on the ownership. So understanding that they own those two other properties, it does provide a lot of flexibility, a lot of opportunity to park off-site. So one of the first things that we have looked at is if you look at engineering manuals, the IT manuals that are used by traffic engineers for parking, for transportation trips generated by different uses. Typically for a resort or a restaurant, there's a high percentage that's assigned just for employee parking. For restaurants and resorts, it varies in the 20 to 30% of the required parking is for your employees. So one of the things that we've talked about is they've got the adjoining properties. Gulfview Manor is underway. They've got plans for that. Dolphin Inn is still an unknown. It's the closest property. It's a property that they could use immediately when they open to put all their employee parking on that property. Again, long run, it's different. We understand that. They haven't decided exactly what they're going to do with that property, but there is still an opportunity when it does redevelop. We're looking at least 2 years out before any improvements are made to that site from a redevelopment standpoint. There might be an opportunity for shared parking with that new use in the restaurant. One of the things also in meeting with the LPA and elected officials, there was a suggestion that we've got the brand new town hall building with a brand new parking lot. Peak hours for town hall versus peak hour for the restaurant are very different. We're going to be looking at additional parking needed in the evenings. And there's an opportunity to maybe work out a shared agreement, maybe leasing some space there from the town, and that was, seemed to be embraced and thought as a good solution. Also, we know there are other uses, other projects, properties that we're working on the south end of the island that will be proposing a lot of parking. The idea that is those properties and other properties that have access parking, there could be some shared parking agreements for those properties. An immediate solution also is that existing at-grade parking lot, as soon as they see a need for additional parking, they can valet that area. They can probably get a third of what they have there and get more parking right on site. And the valet could also extend to those other properties. They don't necessarily have to be self-parked. They can be valeted and brought to the other sites. So those are all the various solutions that are available to us. We believe that there are sufficient options to address what those needs are going to be. The biggest concern from the ownership group is they do not know for sure what their need will be. We know there are solutions. As mentioned, if all goes as planned, they're going to be reopened towards the end of season or the second half of season. I think the first year for them will be a learning curve. They're gonna figure out how busy they are, where people are coming from, how much their parking needs are, and they're gonna have to adjust and be nimble and adapt to that. Again, we hope that just the foot traffic will make them plenty successful. They know they may need to look at other solutions. So what we were hoping to get from the LPA was, let's have a discussion. We know that we need to address this. We get it. We would like most flexibility possible moving forward, or at least in the first year, to really figure out what's going to be needed and what the best solution is. So I'll leave it at that. We're happy to hear your comments, maybe your suggestions, and we will consider that. And the challenge becomes, as mentioned, how do you craft conditions that still provide that flexibility?
So what's your suggestion? Be Jim Inc. for a minute.
So I think from a condition standpoint, if we could limit it to all employees parked off-site, when this project opens its doors. And again, we know that within 2-year period, Dolphin Inn might be rebuilt and that would have to be re-examined. We get that, but that's a commitment we can live with. And I think the idea is also implementing valet parking as soon as there's a need. They start valeting the property, valeting their existing property. And again, the Dolphin Inn will have additional space, not just for the employees, but they can start valeting there also. So I think, to me, that provides an assurance in the long term, in the short term, and in the longer term, we have multiple solutions.
What do you think about that, Don?
A couple quick questions. How many seats, you told me, but I can't remember. How many seats upstairs?
We did the math. So I can pull up the email that we all got from one of the adjacent neighbors that had done the calculation, but the numbers that were presented in the email from the neighbors were accurate.